Yeah, there's like different life intervals. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like the teenage interval where like everything that you're experiencing is like the most tragic thing in the world and the most beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, I don't know how I can move on from my first girlfriend. Like, I'll never love anyone again. Like that kind of shit. It's like all the emotions I'm feeling. Basically, being a teenager is like Linkin Park and Evanescence.
Even like honestly, like even thinking back on it, like my first girlfriend breaking up with me, like the pain of that was like a knife to the heart. That like listeners, like I've mentioned before, like I'm divorced, so like, but like thinking back, like that was still that getting dumped by my first girlfriend was still like such a knife to the heart that was so strong that pain was even stronger than something like, say, like my marriage as a grown adult coming to an end.
So you were shot to the heart.
Yes, she gave love a bad name.
Alert. Quantum surge detected. Vector 597.
Transformers, robotic life forms born far across the galaxy on the planet Cybertron. Two groups of their forces crashed on an unknown planet. A quantum surge then changed the Beast Warriors into Transmetals, who are joined by new comrades. Now, the Beast Wars rage on!
Too much Energon.
Greetings, Maximals, and welcome back to Too Much Energon, the weekly podcast where we review every episode of Beast Wars ever in production order, starting from the beginning. I'm one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
I am your other host, NeoCal.
And this week on Too Much Energon, we have a Mega Beast-sized episode because we are reviewing Coming of the Fuzors, Part 1 and 2, the second and third episode of Season 2 of Beast Wars, respectively. They originally aired on November 2nd and November 9th, 1997. So, Coming of the Fuzors.
The Fuzors, because we need to introduce as many new ways to make Transformers as possible. Transmetals isn't enough, god damn it.
Yep, because Hasbro is like, we need new toy gimmicks, damn it.
You gotta get these kids buying more toys. How do we do it?
Yep. Before we even get into the episode, I'm just gonna say, Fuzor, fucking stupid name.
And it's weird because like they drop that name in the show so nonchalantly as they don't discuss it. They just I think it's Rat Trap that does it. I can't quite remember. But somebody drops the name
I remember that,
and I'm like, huh?
I remember that Megatron does when he's talking to, I think it's Silverbolt. He's all like, blah blah, Fuzor, cheers. And I'm like,
okay.
huh.
Not up for debate. And it's so it's weird that they both the Maximals and the Predacons called them Fuzors.
Right, but that's I don't know, that's kind of how this show is going though, because
that's how it works.
Toys, right?
Yeah.
Because like last episode, the premiere of season 1 or blah. The premiere of season 2, Aftermath, Rat Trap originally coined the term transmetal, but Megatron also referred to himself as a transmetal.
Yeah. Megatron referred to himself as transmetal. In this episode, he goes, "Oh, Tarantulas, I can see that you're transmetal too. Excellent."
Yeah.
And so it's funny, both Megatron and Rat Trap are the ones to coin new terms. They just happen to be the same on both sides. Weird, huh?
They disagree upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this season is already like way more okay, so Transformers as a property, it has always been like the cartoons have always been created with the purpose of selling toys to kids.
Uh-huh.
And I get that. Like that was the same with G1, that was the same with G2, that was the same with season 1 of Beast Wars. But it's much more overt this season so far, I'm finding, and this is something that I didn't really pick up on when I was watching the show
As a
in
kid.
when I was 12 in late 1997. Like I didn't really pick up on that, but now I'm like, yeah, okay, this is like literally a 22-minute toy commercial.
Now more than ever, these last 3 episodes,
Yeah.
do they feel like long toy commercials? There's plot underneath that I'm really interested in.
Right.
We're gonna get into, but for anyone listening, like, surprise, surprise, Dinobot goes on like a fucking like independent like mission and goes and grabs the golden discs.
Yeah.
Like a boss. Like what else is there? There's some shenanigans with Black Arachnia, but outside of that, it's, oh boy, are they feeling like toy commercials, like you said. That's an apt description. It's well, so I'll just go on record of saying, like, I don't like how the Transmetals look. I know, like, burn me on the cross, listeners, but like, I like how. Okay, so I don't like how they look. Second gripe that I have, this is one thing my partner pointed out. They're not like they're not like animals in disguise. Like, this is
Right.
Beast Wars. They're supposed, in their beast mode, they're supposed to look like animals. The
Right.
Transmetals don't anymore. They just gave up on that.
Yeah.
Like, Cheetor has jets and he's like silver, and Rat Trap has wheels. And Megatron,
Yep.
I'll never like his beast mode.
Fucking roller skates.
His face is just so toy-like, whereas it was like a semi-realistic T-Rex in season 1, right?
Yeah.
So I can get over it. I can enjoy the show, but holy shit, is it a transition for me, my dude?
It's like, it's come out recently that the next live action Transformers movie is going to be called Beast Alliance, and some plot details have come out regarding that, and it's basically going to be a like globe-trotting heist film set on modern day Earth that's going to feature Beast Wars characters transforming into basically mechanical animals, like animals that like basically look like Michael Bay Transformers robots.
So, like,
but
more realistic Transmetals.
yeah, basically. And I'm like, dude,
Who asked
no,
for this?
like, no, yeah, exactly. Like, no one wants this. Like, what the fuck?
Speaking of Michael Bay, and no one wants this. Sorry, you were saying I was gonna mention something else, but go ahead. I'll let you finish your
it's
rant.
fine. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Do you remember when that motherfucker said that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were aliens?
Right.
And the
yes,
internet
actually
went fucking like nuts. I actually just filled in my partner about that fiasco, and he was like, "Guys, relax. I didn't actually mean aliens. I just meant Craig and the goo." Craig, that was the little brain dude, right?
Krang.
Yeah, Krang. Sorry, Krang. That
General
was just
Krang.
the goo and Krang. Lol, relax. But like, he 180'd and ended up saying that after he had said, like, doubled down already on like them being aliens. And instead of being like, "Hey, we've listened to you loud and clear, they're not going to be aliens," he did that whole like, "Oh, it was just you guys just didn't understand," like the whole "it's a prank, bro" thing.
Right.
You guys just didn't understand. Technically, the ooze is made by aliens. So like, haha, I was working with like people that worked on the original like run of TMNT. So like, joke's on you guys. You guys are the dummies. And I'm like, dude, just graciously say you were a fucking idiot and apologize. When somebody's
Yeah.
ego, like, you know what I mean? Like, you've met people that aren't even famous directors in real life that like they'd rather like take a bullet before they apologize, even when they're wrong. That was
Oh yes.
yeah, that was
Fuck, I
Michael
work with
Bay.
people like that.
Yeah, that was Michael Bay with the fucking alien thing.
Alien turtles.
Yeah, so what? So
The sequel
so
to
they'd
that
be
movie.
teenage alien. They wouldn't be TMNT anymore, motherfucker. That's for our TMNT podcast. This is our Beast Wars podcast. Right. I always get those two confused.
Yeah, I can see how you would make that mistake. Although I will say, the sequel to that Michael Bay produced TMNT movie is actually a lot better than its predecessor.
So I watched the first one with no
Yep.
expectations, right? And I was like, oh, huh.
It's
That wasn't terrible.
not as
Like,
bad as you would think.
yeah, I was like, I don't know why everybody like flipped out. And then I haven't seen it, but people were like, "Oh, the second one was like actually good," and I was like, "Oh, good."
Yeah, the second one actually feels like a live action version of the 80s cartoon. So I would highly recommend it.
Well, I guess I got to add that to my. Oh well, I got Netflix now, so I can see if it's on there.
It may be that's where I watched it. So
Oh, well then I will.
Speaking of watching things, Coming of the Fuzors Part 1. We open with we open in the barren wasteland that we left our heroes at the end of the last episode with some moonlight and gray clouds and
Things were looking bad.
yeah, it's a very
you reminded me that the planet's like atmosphere and probably oceans, like everything was like re-fucked up. Earthquakes happened, volcanoes went off. It's like you said, the atmosphere was ignited. It was bad. Bad news bears.
Yep. Destroyed wasteland, dead trees everywhere, not looking good.
No, I guess one of the extinction events in Earth's past could be blamed on this moon.
Oh,
and I can say that now because they actually finally bring that up in this episode or in this two-parter.
Mm-hmm. So we cut to the Predacon base and Megatron in his beast form, his transmetal roller skating, transmetal roller skating, hip rocket beast form. Takes off into flight with Inferno in tow.
Inferno, his best buddy. Oh, I just realized it shows a scorpion crawling on the dead tree as lightning flashes in the background, and it shows the moon. And now it's much more obviously Earth's moon. Like it looks like a photo of our moon, right? But there's a scorpion crawling on like a tree, and I'm like, oh, rip in peace. I need to do some fan art of Scorponok now.
Some foreshadowing.
Oh God.
But also rip in peace, Scorponok. Rip in peace. You will be missed. And speaking of
replaced.
Speaking of missing things, that's not what Waspinator is doing, because Waspinator is actually picking up on some shit. He looks up at right. He looks up at the moon and is all like, no, Waspinator knows.
Right?
And then he zips away.
Yeah, he's like, run, moon, now. And he like rubs his wasp chin.
Yeah.
So he's noticed
And then,
But like, who's noticed at this point now? Like, shouldn't they have all have known? Or is it only one moon? Well, now I know where we are. Like, what? Couldn't they have like looked up and been like, wait a second, that looks a lot like Earth's moon.
literally the only planet in the universe with one moon. Raspinator news.
So he rushes off to go do something back in the base. And
Now that he's figured things out, like he suddenly has to do some shit. What that shit is, who knows? But so now Dinobot is in his beast form, looking up at the moon as he does.
scowling, looking at the dark side, contemplating, growling.
Yeah.
A fucking gun pops out of the rocks nearby and shoots at him. Maximal infrared signature detected. And I'm like, is there no peace on this planet?
Never. And then Dinobot
Jumps
gets out of
behind
the
some
way
rocks.
and starts panting and looks over and notices some boiling mud and decides to go
hot
all
spring of mud.
Fucking Predator.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this, but if you recall, right? I know the reference is a Predator reference. Great movie, by the way. Anyone listening that has not seen Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger,
I would be astonished
please.
if anyone listening to this show has not
Right?
seen Predator. Like,
my partner hasn't.
oh,
That's one we need to watch.
oh, wow. Yeah,
So high on our list. It's so good.
it is. Yeah, it holds up too.
You know what doesn't? The further and further along those Alien versus Predator movies go. I do this very infrequently, but I
Those
walked
weren't
away.
even good when they came out, though.
No. I actually walked away from AVP.
I haven't even seen the second one, Requiem, I think it's called. I only saw the first one.
I could never bring myself to ever watch the second. The first one was so bad.
Yeah.
Oh god. Just anyways, he's Dinobot in Beast Wars. He puts the mud on him, but the mud was boiling as if it were like a hot spring, right? Like a natural reservoir.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. And in Predator, when the mud dries on spoilers for Predator,
a movie that came out in 1987, folks.
Jump ahead 30 seconds. 87 was it?
Pretty sure, yeah.
You can close the door if you don't want spoilers. My partner just escaped and covered their ears. When he puts the mud on him by accident, right? It dries and it has a cooling effect, and the Predator can't see him because he uses a type of infrared, like heat signature.
Right.
But he's smearing hot mud on him. Just wanted to point that out. A little bit of a stickler, but as we see the gun, it's not.
As soon as you mentioned the infrared thing, I'm like, I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
and normally I'd say, oh well, it's just scanning for maximal signatures, not heat. But the gun just said maximal infrared signature detected.
Mm-hmm.
So it does scan for heat, and he just put boiling mud on it. Anyways, moving on.
No, that is a good thing to point out.
And another thing, it zooms in and onto a frog, but frogs are amphibious. Like it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be warm.
Right, they're cold-blooded creatures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it like zooms in and detects the frog. But it should be about the same temperature as its surroundings because it's cold-blooded.
Yeah.
So, anyways, science, folks. It's just whenever there's like a teeny bit of sci-fi, all I ask is that they didn't have Google in the 90s, but like all I ask is that they don't use words they don't understand. Anyways, it does not shoot the frog because it does not detect a maximal signature.
I've actually been over the course of the past year or so, I've been slowly rewatching through Star Trek: The Next Generation on Netflix.
Okay.
And
our buddy Steve has been as well, by the way, if you guys ever want to reminisce about it. Like very recently, like same over the last year. Anyway, sorry, you were saying something you've noticed?
Oh, something I've noticed is that the techno babble on the show
is completely consistent.
It's surprisingly good for the most part. Like most of the time, like I listen to like watching the show as an adult and not like a 7-year-old kid, like when I was watching the show originally back in the early 90s. Listening to it as an adult, I'm like, I understand the words that they're saying now, which I obviously did not in 1991. But usually the technobabble makes sense.
Yes,
not always.
At least in that universe.
Not always.
Not always, but it's
most of the
mostly
time.
consistent.
Yeah. So props to Star Trek for that.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm debating like theoretical physics on the show Beast Wars. It said infrared.
Yeah.
And that, right? And one of my, you know me, right? My favorite thing is when in like a 10 seconds from itself, the show contradicts itself. That's my favorite. When somebody will say something or something will happen in the show and then it's immediately contradictory. I'm making up words. The show's contradictory.
No, contradictory.
That's a word. Wait, that's a word, yeah.
No, it is a word, yeah.
Yeah. It just sounded funny when I said it out loud. Do you know what I mean? Like, contradictory. The art of speedrunning the game Contra. Anyways.
I didn't even input the Konami code for 30 extra lives. No.
That's how hardcore I
am. Cheers. Truly contradictory indeed. Cheers.
But speaking of contradictory, I still enjoy this scene though. Because we get the POV shot of the turret, and just like in a freaking video game, it slowly turns right to left.
Yeah.
And every time it pans over the middle, it shows Dinobot covering his face, and he's like covered in mud, like tiptoeing like a little bit closer, and then standing still as it passes him by, and then it goes to the right and then the left until he's right up in its face and he punches it. That makes me think he could have just snuck by it completely, but what the fuck do I know?
Yeah,
it's still funny.
If Metal Gear Solid has taught me anything, like all you have to do is just move when the camera isn't looking directly at you.
And as we all know, they're either completely stationary or they slowly pan left to right in a 180 degree.
Yes, they oscillate repeatedly in a very predictable fashion.
And if you squeeze along the wall, you can go right under it and it's blind spot. You know, I refrained. I was like, how do I define the scene without bringing up Metal Gear Solid? And then I was like, you know what? I'll see if I can, but I bet you Christopher can't.
Leave it to me, Dad. One of
but
these
he
days,
punches the turret.
We'll do a dedicated Metal Gear podcast.
Well, we have to at this point.
I think I legitimately think so. So listeners, keep an eye out for that.
But we're back in the dark side with just Waspinator flying around, and he's looking at the two golden discs in a beam
Yep.
of light.
Yeah, they're both suspended in midair in this like you said, a beam of light. Very sci-fi shit.
Yeah, there's even a purple kind of like laser wall surrounding that beam, and as Waspinator goes to touch it, he's zapped and thrown backwards.
Yeah.
And bad timing, because who's behind him? Dinobot covered in mud, like a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger, ready to kick ass.
Yeah, and Waspinator transforms, and Dinobot grabs him and is basically all like stupid bug. And
Eye lasers
Waspinator,
his gun out of his hand.
yeah, and Waspinator is all like, "Oh, Waspinator knows!" Once again,
One moon.
one moon now, planet changed, and that means
And for the first time on the show,
Dinobot says, "Earth, yes, it means Megatron was right."
Right.
And this is the first time Planet Energon has actually been referred to as Earth, straight up.
And all it took was Waspinator looking at the moon that wasn't a giant death laser and going, "Wait a second, I
Wait a
recognize
cycle.
that." Wait a cycle. And I'm like, but the moon would have looked like that even with the other one still in the sky. Did nobody stop and go, that moon looks really familiar, but no, it can't be. There's two moons.
And did anyone like take a minute to sit back and think, like, God, why do we Transformers like keep crash landing on Earth of all places?
Ha!
We are a spacefaring species. Like, we can
There are
travel the
billions
galaxy.
of planets out there.
Why do we keep crash landing on Earth? Like, what is it?
What? Yeah, that's a good point. If you take the collective, the movies, the animated TV show, like if you take everything, I'm curious how many times they crash landed on Earth.
Yeah, it's
4?
probably more than that.
No,
honestly.
more, because I'm only familiar with the small. That's just what I can think of. 1, 2, 3. I can think of 3 times definitively. Wait, 1.
So in G1 and Beast Wars, them crash landing on Earth was an accident, but like definitely in the Michael Bay film, like it was intentional.
Oh, right. Okay, scratch that off my list then. That's what I was thinking. It
Also-
was, wasn't it?
Yeah, also on the subject of those Michael Bay films, like I fucking hate that like the Transformers came to Earth basically in their own like self-contained like little escape pods.
Oh,
Essentially. Yeah, like
give them a fucking ship. What the fuck?
yeah, exactly. Give them a ship.
The
Like
space for it. They're like roaming around in these pods. Okay.
yeah. Was never a fan of that. It's like put them in the fucking Ark and have the Ark crash land on prehistoric Earth a million years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Come on.
I'm not when it comes to adaptations, I'm not necessarily a stickler for like, oh, it has to be exact
same.
like it has to be a direct like word for word like adapt Transformers. Like that would be a fucking stupid movie because sorry listeners, G1 does not hold up. I've revisited it recently. It does not hold up.
It's a little hard
like
to...
that show is fucking dumb. But
it's overall, and I never usually say this, but it's overall, if you take the big like plot points away from it and put it in like a couple paragraphs for somebody, I'd
Yeah.
recommend that, like just reading a wiki over like stomaching going through the entirety of G1. But
Right.
it also depends. If you're really nostalgic and you want something to play in the background,
Yeah. Read the wiki and watch the 1986 movie.
oh
Because that holds up pretty well, in my opinion, anyway.
yeah. Anybody listening to this that's unaware, Christopher and I do a live commentary of the Transformers movie,
Yeah,
and it's good.
it is. Both the movie
Like
and our
there's actually
commentary
a plot.
track.
There's actually like danger. A child may or may not be eaten alive by by Unicron. I was gonna say Ultron.
Same difference. Anyway, so
yeah, back to the dark side here. Waspinator and Dinobot basically both come to the conclusion. Waspinator of all people, Jesus. I mean, we can assume Megatron knows what the fuck the discs are, right? And he knows that they're on Earth, correct?
Yeah, and presumably that's why he wanted the truce at the end of last season, was because like
he's figuring shit out.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
But like Waspinator, man, go Waspinator. But yeah, he's like he's finishing like Dinobot's sentence, and he's like, the discs will give record of the future and ultimate power.
Yep.
And they decide to, well, not really, but they decide to
Waspinator is all
up.
like, yeah, he's all like, Lizard Bot and Waspinator team up.
Lizard Bot.
And
So close
Dinobot's
to his
all
actual
like,
fucking name.
And Dinobot's all like, yeah, sure, man, you go first. And then picks Waspinator up one-handed and throws him into the like energy field surrounding.
He screams no as he's being thrown into the energy shield.
No!
Yeah. And this is the most torturous like defense system I've ever seen. And while these tendrils shoot out and start to like dismantle and like electrify Waspinator, the camera zooms in on Dinobot's face and he goes, whoa. Also, really bad defense system if you think about it, because what if two people worked together to try to get the discs, such as this exact situation? Like this whole like defense like tendril thing is completely reliant on none of the Predacons working together. Which,
I mean,
good
it
point.
is the Predacons, so
unfortunately Dinobot is here.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like there's a giant magnet?
Yeah, so Waspinator gets blown apart by the shield thingy surrounding the golden discs. And yeah, there's this weird like magnet thing on the wall behind it that pulls parts of Waspinator toward
away
it
from him and sticks to the magnet, and then like a claw comes out of the wall. This is the most elaborate Home Alone trap I've ever seen.
Yeah, so
a claw comes out of the wall, grabs
basically Waspinator gets pulled apart piece by piece and then gets crushed.
Yeah, there's a car crusher in the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's
a cube
at like a junkyard or something like that.
It even has like a little panel that like fires him away.
Yeah.
He's like actually a cube.
And as he gets fired away, the Waspinator cube collides with the cube of the dead transmetal body of Tarantulas.
Yeah, and Black Arachnia is like, "Hey, I'm walking here."
hey, I'm walking here.
And then awkwardly, Dinobot's just like stepping away from like the pedestal, And he's like, huh. And he starts just eye lasering everything.
Yep.
Oh, plot
and
point. He
Taran-
eye lasers a vault.
And Tarantulas is all like in Black Arachnia's head is all like, he's taking the disc, stop him. And Dinobot comically leaps through the wall and leaves a like hilarious imprint, which I think I might actually make the show art for this episode.
Let me see this.
I sent you a screenshot of it.
Oh my god. I did not even notice that. There's a Dinobot. He doesn't go through it like that, though. He goes through it backwards like Batman disappearing.
Yep.
That is some hilarious shit.
Although I will say about this
Amazing.
like basically cardboard cutout of a person, it is kind of the pose you would imagine if someone was actually body checking their way through a wall.
Yes. And presumably that's what he did. He ran and jumped through. They just didn't animate it. The camera was on Black Widow at the time.
That's
fair.
I'll give them that. It's not typical cartoon shit where it's just like
catch that.
Where it's basically just like Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man.
For listeners, if you didn't catch it either, around like, I don't know, 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Yeah, that like Dinobot jumps through a grate or a vent and he leaves an imprint of himself, like when a cartoon runs through a wall.
Yep.
That, you know what? It's the little details that actually make the show pretty great.
I think
the overall
yeah.
plot is first and foremost, but little things like that and like the Predator throw the Predator reference. It's fun.
Little homages like that.
Yeah. So Tarantula says some Tarantulas bullshit in Black Arachnia's head. And he's like, go after Dinobot. And she's like, no, I don't fucking care. Besides, you wanted me to get your body to your lab. And he's like, you fool! Those discs are more valuable than... Oh, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they give up on that. And so she starts kicking his transmetal corpse around.
And then
Waspinator's alive.
Yeah, the cube of Waspinator is all like, oh sure, leave Waspinator behind. Waspinator just drag himself to CR tank.
And a little insect claw comes out and starts pulling him along. And I'm like, man, go Waspinator.
Yeah.
So independent.
Very resilient, motherfucker.
Right? Him and Pterosaur, man. Well, Pterosaur,
Rip in
not
peace,
so much.
Pterosaur.
Yeah. Rip in peace. But
God, I am way more mad as an adult about Pterosaur and Scorponok dying so senselessly.
I didn't even remember that. That's how like little I cared as a kid.
I'm way more mad about it as a grown-up watching this show than
Right?
I ever was as a kid. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're gone now. And now I'm like, but that was such a like fart in the wind, like passing for those two. Like, come on, they deserve better.
Make the episode of them going out.
Yeah.
Make the episode of them going out like they refuse to yield to one of the Maximals or both of them, and in their hubris, they get knocked into the lava.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they refuse to surrender, and it's just like give up, like blah blah blah, and the Maximals are inside the dark side, right? And maybe no one else is like around, and they say never, and like they continue fighting, and as like Cheetor and Rat Trap and Rhinox fire back at them, the ledge that he's on gives way and he falls into the lava in the dark side.
Yeah, like
there you go.
Like that. Yeah, exactly. Like something more. it's very easy to come up with a more narratively satisfying end for those characters than what we got in this show.
Do you remember when you PM'd me and you were like, so how'd you handle blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah dying? And I'm like, what? And you're like, they died that episode. I was like, huh? I had looked down to like check like my phone or like, you know, like drink or something like that. And like, I guess I didn't process it. Like I looked away for a second and I immediately like went back and like went and watched it. And I was like, oh, they died so quickly that I didn't even really, because I had watched it twice and it was playing in the background and I didn't even like really register that they were gone.
Right.
Man.
I mean, not even the characters
Always
in this
gonna bug
show.
me, man.
Not even the characters in this show seem to really give a shit either, so.
Yeah, when they thought Rat Trap died, they were like, oh, I'll miss that stinking pile of omnivorous rodents.
Omnivorous pestilence.
Pestilence, right.
Right.
They were like all shit talking him, and it's like, yeah, he was a rat, and sure, he was annoying, and sure, I hated him, but he was my best friend.
And he was an omnivore, so fuck that guy.
Well, he was a garbage-eating piece of shit, but he was our friend. Oh boo! Oh boo hoo! Yeah, they should have the Predacons should have gathered around the lava pit and, you know, like fired guns up in the air or something.
Yep. 21 blaster salute.
Yeah.
21 eye laser salute.
Yeah, and they grab an Energon shake and they're like, pour one out for our dead homies. Yes.
Cheers.
By the way, we should put a grate over this lava pool or something. I'll forever be salty about that.
I've played enough Super Mario Brothers to know that this could be a problem. Cheers.
But only after I've lost 2 Predacons. One, the most loyal Predacon I could have asked for. Only now will I put down a metal grate or something.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. He sighs and looks over to the employee of the month wall. Which, as we know, only has Scorponok pictures on it.
Yeah, it's just 30 of the like same portrait of Scorponok over and over.
Oh god. And he's like, I suppose I'll actually have to choose someone this time. And he looks around and he's got the spiders and he like winces. He's like, ugh. He looks at like Quick Strike and he's like,
I guess it's me this month. Cheers.
And he puts up a picture of like the old him, like with the T-Rex head. The T-Rex head hand. Guess it's me this month.
Before I had a makeover. Cheers. Before I had a change. For the better.
He holds up, he's holding 2 pictures in his hands. It's almost a tie between 2 people. No one else can see what he's looking at, but it's a picture of season 1 him and season 2 him. That being said, Inferno has been pretty fucking valuable of an asset these last like 3-ish 4 episodes, 5 episodes. Yeah, he might be stupid and he might shoot first and ask questions later, but he is unflinchingly loyal to the royalty and his queen.
He shoots first and then asks a question later that isn't even really relevant to anything that any action he had taken.
No, probably something like, "Are you ready to burn?"
And people are just like, "Wait, what?"
That was rhetorical. Any-
Bleh! Burn.
but sorry, where the hell were we? Anyways, back to coming of the Fuzors. Part 1, where
Jesus.
we're with Rhinox and Rat Trap, and they're flat out just hanging out near a pod. So that's exciting, right?
Yep.
And
Except
Cheetor,
Rhinox is
Cheetor-
all like,
go ahead. Yeah.
Rhinox is all like, well, this
This
stasis
one's
pod
a-
here ain't gonna do us any good because it's a blank.
Yeah,
And
and
Cheetor-
Cheetor's like, but 2 dropped in Pred territory.
Yep.
And it's a dud because it's a protoform, but I guess it never had a spark, or the spark died at some, or disappeared, or they don't really explain. They just say this protoform doesn't have a spark.
Yeah.
So presumably it never had one. It was like a backup proto. Oh, it is a backup protoform. Right. Part 2. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Which kind of makes me wonder, like, what the point of that protoform was then. Like, that's kind of wasting a stasis pod because it's
For
a
this
protoform without a
specific
spark.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Why would it need the stasis pod to protect it? Use energy. Yeah, you're right. That is because you could just throw it in like a locker.
Exactly.
You just store it on the ship.
Yeah, it's just it is literally a dead body.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
Good point,
but
Matt.
it's-
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's
that's a good point.
it's serving a plot point here though. So
Uh-huh.
so
Air Razor and Snow Kitty maximize, and they go to scout the Pred. The other 2 stasis pods that landed.
yep. Yeah, they're going off into Predacon territory to try and track down these other 2 stasis pods that have crashed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am kind of wondering though, because like, why are we focusing on these ones specifically when we saw at the end of last season that
it seemed like a few more than a few fell down.
Literally every stasis pod crashed.
Was
to
it
the
every
planet.
stasis pod?
It looked like it, yeah.
I thought it was just like the ones on this side of the planet in orbit, because they were all in like a line, like
Yeah.
a synchronous orbit, right?
Could
so
be,
I presumed
yeah.
the wave didn't hit the ones on the other side of the planet, maybe. But you're right, more than 3 landed.
Yes.
Or sorry, fell. Presumably, I don't. Now that I'm seeing this next scene, there's a bunch of robot parts on the ground, which means some might have crashed and like just obliterated themselves. Oh, I'm just noticing that now. Oh,
I didn't even
so
notice
at
that. So
the
good catch.
6:30 mark on Tubi, there's a hand twitching and there's sparks everywhere and there's parts of Transformers. So some died.
Good point.
Ah, that's why there's only these 2, and they're not in good shape. They're trying to scan for creatures, but they're like all fucky. And I mean, surprise, surprise, they're always fucky. But this time the scanners are damaged. And there's a replication error. Ooh. So what this means is
We have a new toy gimmick.
there's
we
a
need
new
to
toy
sell.
gimmick right after the last episode where there was also a new toy gimmick. These Transformers are 2 animals in 1.
Ho ho.
So we meet them. One is cool and one is stupid. You can probably guess which one I think is cool. For a second I almost thought when Quick Strike peeks over, he peeks his head through like some branches. I almost thought it was Scorponok, like
Reborn.
reborn. Like, do you know what I mean? Like his spark went up into a proto form and like came back as a transmetal, and I was like, oh, but then I was like, wait, and I heard his voice, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes.
For fuck's sakes, this is just a like stupid redneck cowboy.
It's and I get it, like yeehaw, like he's a rattlesnake. Sorry, a cobra.
What tarnation?
What tarnation?
And he's so like, he's not even like he's definitely a character who is playing on like Western stereotypes.
This
Western
whole episode
stereotype. Well,
yeah.
yes. But like he's not even doing it in a cool way. Like Quick Strike is very much just a stereotypical, like quite literal, like tarnation. There's a snake in my boots. Like kind of cowboy. Like
the gold prospector / like over-eager gunslinger who dies in his first duel.
There's a new sheriff in town there, partner.
Yeah, so
Like-
for the listeners, Quick Strike is his colors are cool. He's gold and like a metallic sky
Turquoise?
blue. Turquoise, yeah.
Yeah.
And his tail, they're in their beast forms, and Quick Strike's tail is a cobra and his body is a scorpion.
Yep.
An inferior scorpion, if you will. To the one from season 1.
Yeah, and it looks
And-
like they kind of at least partially reuse the Scorponok beast mode model.
Maybe.
Yeah, like the head and
Yeah.
the body, but it obviously they changed the tail and the pinchers and the colors and whatnot, but
And Silverbolt. I don't think they really know their names at this point. But he is a wolf. He's a griffin.
yeah, basically.
Yeah, he is like claws like an eagle, like front claws like an eagle, and wings like an eagle, but he's a wolf. So he looks fucking cool. Quick Strike looks fucking dumb. Another thing I want to point out: Quick Strike in
Sorry.
Quick Strike in
Go on.
his beast mode is very shiny and metallic, but Silverbolt in his beast form, at least his body, his wings kind of look metallic, but his body almost looks real, like fur, like like a wolf, yeah. Like he's not all shiny and metallic like the transmetals are. So presumably he's not a transmetal at all.
See, I find in the face, like I'm looking
They're
at
Fuzors, right? They're their own thing.
Yeah, like I'm looking at a paused still of the episode right now, and like I don't think that Silverbolt in beast form, like I don't think his face even looks like a wolf, really.
No, it's like a werewolf. Like how do I describe it? Like
it's hard to
animated
describe.
human characteristic wolf.
Right, yeah,
Like a cartoon werewolf rather than a wolf's head.
Yeah, his head does not look like a dog, in my opinion.
No, like a cartoon dog, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know how Frisket looks more like a dog than this guy.
Yes,
Frisket from Reboot.
Frisket from Reboot. And listeners, want to hear us talk about Reboot? We have another podcast where we do this, but about Reboot, called Alphanumeric. So check that out wherever you're listening to this.
Yeah, there's a good boy on that show too.
Yep.
Especially the last this upcoming episode.
Yep.
But yeah, Silverbolt is a good boy and Quick Strike is a bad boy.
And Inferno shows up and
Doing what Inferno does.
and Quick
Can you
Strike
guess what that
lunges.
is?
Quick Strike lunges toward him, and Inferno catches him and is all like, "Blah, you will burn,"
yeah.
or some shit, and then grabs him by the tail and starts like just whipping him
So
toward
I
the
actually
ground.
like you pick up the tail of a snake and just whip it around to use its
Yep,
momentum and weight to keep its head away from it and knock it out.
yep.
Have you ever been around like big dangerous snakes?
I did live in Saskatchewan for a couple of years when I was a teenager, so I did see a
Obviously,
couple. I did
don't touch the snake.
I did see a couple of snakes.
But if you've never grabbed a snake by the tail, whipped it around, and then used its weight to bash it against the ground, you've never truly lived, folks. And basically, Inferno does something like that to him. But what he does before that, what Christopher said, when he lunged at Inferno, he's just super aggro. Like, and I'm like, we already, like Quick Strike is, we already have an Inferno. Like, why do we need two like super aggressive Predacons?
Right.
Right?
We don't.
But yeah, like you said, Inferno, way bigger than Quick Strike, by the way. He's a little guy. Grabs him laughing, and his Cobra tail is biting Inferno. And I don't know if it's having absolutely no effect, or Inferno likes pain, because he says, "Ha ha 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 ha! You fool! Pain is my friend." And he grabs him by the tail, like you said. "Allow me to introduce you to it." And I'm like, I like that line. I just wanted to point that line out before we moved on.
And Silverbolt tries to intervene and is all like, "Hey, leave that guy alone." And
Yeah.
Inferno is all like, "Oh look, a hero! Ha ha ha! You fucking rotundo! You will burn!" Basically.
And I'm like, why is he trying to save Quick Strike? Because Quick Strike just attacked him.
Because
But we find out that Silverbolt is a good boy.
He is a noble wolf, damn it.
He is. God damn it. He's the paladin of the show.
Yep.
We only had one before. Now we have two. Well, sorry, I guess we only have one. Because Optimus Primal is gone.
For now. Cheers.
The camera zooms out, and Megatron in his beast mode is just chilling, watching.
As
he's eating popcorn, yeah. He's like, "Oh, such entertainment."
Well, this is an interesting sight. Cheers. Just like in Beast Wars Part 2. He's chilling off in the he's chilling off on the side, chilling out in the sidelines, just watching shit go down and being all like,
he does something with his
cheers, as he rubs his like little T-Rex paws together.
And he says some bullshit to his computer that's like, "Oh, before their processors or their identity circuits or something like finish stabilizing, rewrite their voice commands or something."
Oh, right.
So he remotely, I actually missed that the first time I watched it. He remotely,
overwrite their activation codes.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
For his big move that he does here, he comes in while they're tangoing with Inferno and he tail whacks Inferno away. And he says, "Goodbye, bad cop. Hello, good cop." And he does this motion as if he's like adjusting his suspenders.
Yeah.
Then he's like, "I am Megatron."
Also, I'm just gonna say, like, I think it's kinda fucking dumb that he's all like, "Well, speak the Predacon activation code. Blah blah, terrorize. You see, you must be Predacons. Yes, otherwise that wouldn't have worked." No. I'm like, really? That's your fucking plan, dude?
Yeah, because he's that's a good point. Megatron's like, oh, noble Predacons, this was all a misunderstanding. Silverbolt's
Noble.
like, this is interesting. I kind of like this back and forth. He's like, a misunderstanding? I knew it. And Quick Strike is like, what? You trust this tin horn toad?
You trust this tin horn toad?
But yeah, he's like, we're all Predacons. If your data tracks in blah 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 the crash, you would know that. Try it. And they both say their names, and they I don't know. The Quick Strike says some Quick Strike bullshit. It's like, you blew a pretty tune, stranger. But I don't
Right.
believe you. I don't know why I went with that voice.
And Silverbolt's all like,
yeehaw.
Silverbolt's all like, yes, I think I am called Silverbolt. Yes,
Oh, right.
noble, strong, and pure. As he looks up at the moon, and Megatron is all like, yes. As he shakes his head.
You're right. Okay.
Anyway.
I loved that.
Just speak aloud the Predacon activation code. Yes. And then you will see. Terrorize.
They all terrorize.
Yep. There, you see.
And they seem kind of Quick Strike seems freaked out by it. He actually screams. He's like, "What in tarnation?"
God. Just to play into a stereotype.
And there you have it. New form, new weapons, new opportunity.
And
Silverbolt's
Silverbolt,
like, I don't like the taste of that.
Yep. We see them in robot form for the first time.
You know what?
And
Silverbolt looks fucking cool in this robot form.
I actually had a toy Silverbolt. Silverbolt is in the show is 100% accurate to the toy.
Oh, he looks like that?
Yeah.
Because I think he looks cool.
Silverbolt is actually, based on what I've seen online anyway, like Silverbolt is actually quite well regarded in the Transformers community as being one of the best Beast Wars figures.
Really?
And I'm like, I get it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting some weird, like, ancient memories flooding back to me. I had a friend that had Silverbolt.
Mm.
Now that I'm looking at it. Oh, cool. I'm positive I had a friend with. Right.
Yeah.
Huh. But yeah, he looks cool on the show.
Yeah. And that's exactly what the toy looked like. Even right down to the way he transforms and everything. Like,
even that's the same?
Yeah. He's 100% show accurate.
He's legit. And
Cheers.
while the new Predacons are in their robot form, Quick Strike like venom lasers Inferno, who's on the ground rubbing his head. And then they have this weird moment that the music changes to like friendly, like upbeat music. And he goes, "Oh yes, we are big." Megatron's like, "We are a big family now. Welcome, my new Predacons." And he like pulls them into a hug.
Fucking group hug. And I'm like,
I kind of love that. I love that. And they even all look at the camera. Maybe that should be the thumbnail. And Silverbolt like arches his like eyebrow ridge, like like he's still not buying it.
Right.
That's a great. I'm gonna screenshot that and use that as my wallpaper.
Welcome, my new Predacons.
I love that.
Cheers.
They all look at the camera and there's like cheerful music. Jesus. Anyways,
That's the moment in 90s sitcoms where they all like where like Megatron smiles and like Silverbolt and Quickstrike will both like emote like really awkward facial expressions, and then you'll see like executive producer, like executive produced by. It will just like
yeah,
cut to credits right there.
yeah. And you know what's funny? I was kind of amazed that it didn't cut to credits. I was like, oh, that was a quick episode. And then it comes back to the Axelon, and I was like,
It's like,
oh,
oh shit,
right. That's only halfway through.
yeah, we're only halfway through now.
Because it feels like such a end of an episode.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
speaking of the Axelon, we're back there now, and Rhinox is hooking himself up to a machine, and Rat Trap's all like, "Man, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't be doing this because like blah blah's going on, and you know we've been through all this shit, and
Optimus has been vaped. Like, we need you.
yeah, exactly."
The
So
the
Rhinox is
TLDR of the sorry, go ahead.
Rhinox is all like, "Well, no choice. I gotta get out there into cyberspace."
Yeah, I think he mentions, maybe it's a bit later, maybe I'm wrong. There's still a trans warp like bubble due to the death laser having blown up.
Right.
And so he wants to go and like with this device astral travel? Yeah. At like project his consciousness and go snoop around in this trans warp like bubble that's been left after the explosion in space.
He's going straight up Doctor Strange, like astral plane bullshit here.
Yeah, he astral projecting. He's projecting his consciousness to go investigate it's pretty great. It's
cool,
it's
yeah.
interesting. It's cool. And they won't take, he's not taking no for, have you noticed that he's got like no patience? Remember when he grabbed Dinobot
Right.
by like the neck and he's like, what did he say last episode? I'm not in the mood.
I'm in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Understand?
Dinobot's like, yeah. So he's just
I've
kind
been
of
out
like,
of beer for 2 goddamn days, so I'm not in a great mood here. So sit down and shut up.
I'm going into cyberspace. Don't wake me until I'm back. And so, Rat Trap is like, hey, get your shiny butt in gear and go and fly and do some Cheetor bullshit. And so we get like a wipe screen, which is the maximal symbol flying off of Cheetor's head towards the viewer. And that's a cool transition.
No,
I dig it.
It's a cool transition, and it kind of reminds me of the G1 transitions.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
You know, the whole like, for the listeners, the whole like do 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 bit, like anytime we would transition between like whatever the Autobots or Decepticons were up to, we would get this like screen where like the logo would flip.
Yeah.
It's kind of reminiscent of that. It's also kind of weird and awkward because we've never seen anything like that in this show. And
on this show, no.
From what
I was going to ask you, was that the first time?
From what I recall, I don't think that happens again. So
we're gonna have to keep an eye out. That's so weird. It's cool.
Definitely,
I like that, but it's weird that I was gonna ask you. Is this just the first time I've noticed, or is this the first time it's actually done that?
No, I think this is 100% the first time that's actually happened in the show. And
you think they don't do it again?
No, I don't.
Bizarre.
I don't think so. Although I don't remember season 3 very particularly well, so we'll find out
soon.
Cheers.
But yeah, Cheetor is now flying around like a fast cat.
Yeah, he super cats away. And
Then my favorite scene of the entire season 1 and 2 comes up.
oh shit. Take it away then.
Oh, we meet Dinobot in some like rocky, like broken, like mountainy area.
Right.
And he has both the discs. And as far as I know, other than like Waspinator, Black Arachnia, none of his side like knew he went on this like little mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we've joked about it before about Dinobot being like the warrior poet who
Yeah.
loves like ancient Earth poetry. But like this is just further proof. Right? And it literally
He appreciates Shakespeare in the original Klingon.
and right off the bat,
Rest in peace, Christopher Plummer.
yeah. Right off the bat, rest in peace. Right off the bat, he immediately says, maybe I'm wrong, to be or not to be.
Yep.
And he like there's lightning, it's still nighttime, and he's like, that is the question. And I'm like, man, he loves Hamlet, huh?
I mean, I haven't read a ton of Shakespeare, but when I was a teenager, like Hamlet was like Shakespeare that I was fucking all about. Like, I loved Hamlet when I was a teen. So
yeah, I never got to be, and I did a lot of plays when I was in high school, and never did any, never got in any Hamlet characters.
Mm.
And then I never acted again.
Well, I wrote a bunch of shit that people
Oh, excuse me.
that other people acted out, but I never
Oh.
got to act myself.
Oh, well.
Which is unfortunate. But
Is that something that you wanted to do?
not at the time. Now I'm like, yeah, I would totally love to do that. Like, I would really enjoy that, like being in a play and acting and whatnot.
But but yeah, like being a teenager, and then there's the transition of like, oh, I'm free of high school and home. I'm an adult now. When you're like, when you leave home, I don't know, 16 to 22, whatever, right? And you're like, I know everything there is to know. I'm in first year university. Bow down to me, world, for I am the smartest echelon of human. And then there's an
I have taken one psychology class at Malaspina University College. Yes, I am now an expert on your mental health.
everyone's, and I can give everyone unsolicited advice. You're welcome. And then something happens. Something happens around 26 through to 28, where you start going, man, like, was I really that cringy? And then by like 29, 30, 31, you're like, yes, I was. Holy shit, I was, wow, I was terrible. I really don't like 20-year-old me. Holy jeez, that is embarrassing. How do I delete these memories? But yeah, that big transition of like the early 30s where you just have less fucks to give, and you're just you refigure life out. You think you have it figured out at 20, and then around like 30, you're like, oh god, can't believe I said or did like any of those things.
And then when you're me and hit your mid-30s, you start coming to the existential realization that no matter how you feel about it, you are going to die someday. And that fills you with bone-chilling dread, where you're like, oh god, there is going to be a moment in my life where I am grasping my last breath, and oh shit, everything that I am and ever was will just cease to exist. uh, uh, uh.
Speaking of all that ever was and all ever will be,
Yeah.
Dinobot has some golden discs. Christopher's having a deep moment, and I'm like, so Dinobot's holding these discs.
No, I've legitimately been dealing with some like existential dread over the past couple of years. For the past year or two, like over the inevitability of mortality. And I'm like, wow.
Never hit me before.
You're not there yet.
Yeah, I'll let you know when that hits.
You're a couple years younger than I am, correct? You're like what, like 33, 34 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just wait till you hit 35.
Okay, is that the?
It's when it hit
turning
me.
point?
That's what hit me. So, like, there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, here's the thing, Christopher. You go out on your own terms. You go to Odin's mead hall or wherever it is you want to go. And that means at the ripe old age of 60, 70, 80, you may need to pick up a sword and shield and go and go fight the good fight.
There we go. Like, God's willing, I will be like an 80-year-old man and just know that my time, that Odin is calling for me. So I'm like, well, all right, time to go do some shit. Pick up a sword and shield. Grab my, drape my, hang my drinking horn over me.
There you go. Why not? You've seen the show. Well, we've segued a lot, but you've seen Vikings. Do you remember when they first go to Northumbria, and they bring that old Viking? He's like ancient, like super old, like 42 or something, and hey man, back then.
Which super is ancient, like 42.
Which in 10th century Europe might as well be like 100. He begs Ragnar to go on this trip, and he says he, over the years, like one by one, he has kicked ass and taken names, and all of his like friends have died, and he knows they're waiting for him. And at first they're like, oh yeah, old man, go and like make some blankets, blah blah blah, herd some goats or whatever. And he's like, no, do you want to challenge me? Like I can take like most people here. And he's like, oh, okay, old timer. And I don't even actually think he's that old, like what, maybe 50. And but like I said, that's like 90 in 10th century Europe. And he goes with him, and holy shit, that old guy, he's just too good. Too good to die. Yeah. You'd think he'd be like, oh no, my arm slipped, and like let an arrow or a sword get through his shield side once in a while. Right. But no, part of it is not going freely. And he certainly does not. And I always remember that character. And I'm like, man, you know what? Maybe that's you, Christopher. Maybe at the ancient age of 42, you pick up a sword and shield and go, well, time to go raiding.
Well, probably not at 42, because I'm gonna say, I don't want to die. At all. Ever. I know it's going to happen, but I would like to push that shit back as far as I can, you know?
Yeah. Sidebar, maybe this is better for reboot. Actually, no, it's good for Transformers. If you could imprint your consciousness or a copy of like digitize like Christopher.exe
Mm-hmm.
and like save all your memories and your personality as basically in virtual space.
Right.
And to anybody interacting with them, hell, like even yourself, it would be weird. It's essentially you, but for that to be activated on, Black Mirror shit, right?
Or like the movie The Sixth Day, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, that came out back in like 2001.
Isn't that
where
really
like
bad? Oh, with clones.
yeah, with
And you
clones.
could tell what issue they are because like on their eyelid they've got like a little marker, right?
Yeah, and they would
Wow.
like and they would like I think they called them syncordings.
They'd sync their memories up with their clones.
Yeah.
So they had the most recent memories of when they were alive.
Yeah. They would basically create like a backup of their brain regularly, and if they got killed or whatever, that syncording would be uploaded into a clone of them. So essentially, like, they were kind of immortal, but also not really.
Kind of, but it removed their fear of death, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that's a different a different animal with the same memories. But speaking of existential like dread, that's why I don't like Star Trek teleportation.
Transporters. Yeah.
Transporters. Technically, it's disintegrating you, breaking you
Yep.
down on a molecular level.
Yep.
Transcript, like memorizing it, and then reassembling molecules that match it perfectly, or they try to, somewhere else. So they're essentially vaporizing you and making a copy of you somewhere else.
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I will say on the topic of, like a digital copy of me, basically.
Yeah.
That digital copy would think that it's me and would feel like it's me and would be like, hell yeah, I'm moving on. Sweet. But me over here, who is like dying, would be
In your
like,
flesh.
that
In your
would
flesh
be
tube.
like, that ain't me, man. I'm dying. I don't want to die.
I see. That's how I feel. I'm like, that guy would wake up and he'd go, "Oh, sweet," but like that's why I'm not down for that. I wouldn't transfer my consciousness. I'm like, if I can't enjoy life, neither can that asshole.
Yeah, because it's like ultimately, like that's still not me. Like it will be me in personality, and it will.
It's not a matter of soul. It's not that I think I have a soul, and that this program and this perfect copy of me doesn't have a soul. I don't necessarily believe in like such things like that. It's just flesh and blood.
Yeah. It's just
copy.
It's just literally the fact that like I will still die. Like, take my brain out of my head and put it in a robot.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, as long as I in my present conscious form can still go on, I'm like, cool. But like, yeah.
Yes, I actually think the same thing. So it's just like, oh, will you upload yourself like a Black Mirror, blah blah blah? And I'm like, fuck that. Digital me doesn't deserve to like live forever. Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
And
speaking of digital versions of ourselves, Black Arachnia has has fucking Geordie LaForge's visor on her face that's glowing green, and it's like hooked up to
right.
Yeah, it's like hooked up to a computer, and Tarantulas' voice is all like, yes, it's working. I
Creepy ass lab.
live. And we see his transmetal body on a spider's web as like
Uncrawling.
yeah, his like creepy ass legs like slowly one by one like uncurl, and he's like stretching his arms out,
He
and
has
he's
spider
like,
abs.
yeah, and he's all like, I live, in a very like Frankenstein like kind of way,
Yeah.
and I'm all like, fuck, I hate tarantulas.
Right? And like fucking net running Black Arachnia is like twitching as whatever machine this was transferred the consciousness from her body into Transmetal Tarantulas's body. So he's alive.
Alive. Weird science.
This is like the 5th time we've brought up weird science.
Right? It's a good movie, okay, listeners?
Yeah. God damn it. But we cut back to the Transmetals, and Silverbolt is helping Inferno off the ground.
Yeah.
And Megatron's like, yes, teamwork and cooperation. Those are the Predacon watchwords. And I'm like, no, they're fucking not.
Depends when.
But he's bullshitting for Silverbolt, right?
Right, yeah.
And Quick Strike pipes up, and he's like, how about backstabbing and treachery? And can you imagine what's going on inside Megatron's head hearing that? And he's like, oh, for fuck's sakes, another Pterosaur. Like, really? The first thing that Quick Strike says is, how about backstabbing and treachery? Actually, I was thinking more about loyalty and unwavering bravery.
Loyalty and unrelenting camaraderie. Cheers.
After all, we're a family.
Be good to your fellow Predacon, as he be good to you. Cheers. Except that's not how the fucking Predacons are. So.
And so Cheetor's flying by in the distance, and Megatron's like, now, Silverbolt, pursue and destroy. And he's like, but he hasn't attacked us. And he's like, never question my orders, bitch. And he like literally shoots Silverbolt.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he shoots him with like
guns.
Yeah, shoulder guns that are clearly his T-Rex hands. His beast mode T-Rex hands.
See,
yeah,
that was obvious to you. I was like, what are those?
Oh,
there's T-Rex fingers. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I have to say, someone else's shoulder weapons are a little cooler later on.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah.
But Megatron is all like, flight mode! And then he transforms.
Inferno! Give Quick Strike a piggyback and follow me!
Yeah, he transforms to T-Rex mode and then, like, air roller skates away. And
so they take to the skies.
They take
robots
to the skies.
In the skies.
Robots in these skies.
Yeah, they're not robots in disguise anymore. And we get a very Cheetor moment, but now it's in the air. He's like, let's see if those lame cats can follow this pussy cat. And he dives into this is such a trope. You, more than anyone else I know, would probably know this. The canyon scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, let's see if they can follow me in here. And I'm like, why wouldn't they just follow you from above the canyon?
Yeah, they don't. There is literally no reason for them to follow you into the
canyon, into the trench, when they could fly over it and still have eyes on you.
Yep.
See what that there's this trope. Anyone, who am I kidding? It's not like the people listening are like 16, but hey, if you are, thanks for fucking listening to a podcast about a 25-year-old cartoon.
About a show older than you are.
But there's this trope where Independence Day, every single time there's like a jet or an alien ship or like whatever, it's in everything.
To be fair, I did get someone on Twitter did reach out to me who is literally as old as this show. Like his
For real?
bio was like, "Oh, I'm born in 1996. I was born in 1996," and I'm like, "Wow, dude, wow, you're just now getting into Beast Wars. I mean, cool,
rad. Welcome to the
and
party.
and he listens to the show, so shout out to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and also watching a show from before you were born. He's 25.
Yeah.
Ish, presumably. Tell me that this doesn't look better, like visually speaking. I don't know about writing, than animation from the last decade or two. I would argue that I understand it's more expensive and stuff, but like, man, every time, like, oh hell, here's an example, and I stuttering here, but here's an example. You have a very young family member who is super
Right.
into Transformers and has watched Beast Wars 1996 and 7 Beast Wars recently, correct?
Yep.
And he thinks it's rad.
Yeah, I have never been a prouder uncle. For the listeners, it was my little nephew who was I think he's about 4 or 5 years old at this point. But yes, my sister had said to me on Instagram, like, "Oh hey, blah blah, like your nephew really loves Transformers," and I was like, "Oh, you best get that boy watching Beast Wars, lol." And she's like, "Oh, well, where can he watch it?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's free on Tubi.tv." And she's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then like a day later, she's like, "Oh, I'm getting him to watch Beast Wars," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, sweet." And then a couple days later, she was like, "Yeah, so he's watched like half of the first season of Beast Wars now, and he's running around the house yelling Dinobot Maximize all the time." And I'm like,
He's that young, like 5.
I'm like, yeah, around there, yeah. I'm like, that's amazing. I've never been prouder of anyone in my life.
And that's the thing. It holds up. If something's good, it holds up. Is the CG like
Dated?
Avengers like levels of no.
No.
But the thing is, because the whole thing is CG, it looks like a consistent world. It fits in its own world.
And what I would say about Beast Wars and just like Reboot and Shadow Raiders and a lot of all of these like early mainframe shows is they versus like a lot of CGI cartoons nowadays is like I don't know, like I find a lot of shows nowadays are trying to look like cartoons, if that makes any sense. Whereas like I feel like these shows weren't, like they were going for something that was kind of realistic, like the best
to
approximation.
Look like metal. Yeah, and to look like wood, and yeah,
they were going for realism as best as they could, whereas like I find most CGI cartoons nowadays are like going for this like really like hyper stylized like cartoon look. Like you would never see something in, I don't know, I can't even think of an example, but like you would never see something in like a modern, like even like a Pixar movie nowadays and be like, "Oh, that looks like something out of real life."
I see what you mean. Pixar, don't get me wrong, they look good, right?
Oh,
Like you
100
said, they're stylized,
yeah.
but it looks like a Pixar movie. You know, like
Yeah.
Toy Story looks like Toy Story, that kind of thing. This, is it as good? No, but it looks like Beast Wars, right? Like it's in its own style.
Yeah, I guess my point is that like modern CGI is like a lot of the time is kind of otherworldly in its
Oh,
style
right.
because like
Okay.
what it's
I follow you.
because like it's going for this like kind of like cartoony style, whereas like something like this, I would argue is
It's going for a sense of
it's
realism.
yeah, it's going for like this and Reboot and Shadow Raiders. Like it's going for a more realistic look.
Even though it's fiction in its own sense and it's Transformers,
Yeah.
it's making it look
Yeah, they're trying
realistic.
to make it look like the real world, essentially.
And
Unlike
you can see that in Reboot because they're more humanoid, the
Yeah.
characters on that. Oh, and
Yeah.
Shadow Raiders, War Planets for anyone listening that watched it in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They're humanoid in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get you. It's so cool that somebody that young is enjoying this. And you know what? With the comics that are coming out, I don't know if it's age appropriate, but like that Netflix, like Siege and
Oh, War for
Earthrise,
Cybertron.
the
Yeah.
War for Cybertron. Yeah,
Those are rated
um,
TV-14.
yeah. So maybe he's too young for that. And the plot's pretty like heavy and stuff. So I'd wait another like 5 years or 7 years or whatever before he gets like into that. But like, there's so much material. There's so much for him to enjoy that's
Right.
not dated. We were talking about how G1 is,
Yeah.
but there's a lot coming. So there's like the second coming of Beast Wars.
Yeah.
We're in the the Renaissance of
The
Beast Wars.
The Beast Wars Renaissance.
Yeah, like a fine wine.
Quite coincidental that we decided to launch a Beast Wars podcast last year, just before like Beast Wars hype would suddenly like pick up again.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a couple times on the show already, but like we didn't know the community was so big. We didn't
No,
know
not at all.
I didn't know there was like new Netflix animation coming.
Yeah,
Right?
and
Like additional story.
new Beast Wars toys.
New Beast Wars
and-
toys? You didn't know either, yeah.
No, like new Beast Wars comic. Like we were already like a couple of months into the podcast when we started discovering this, and it's like, oh, what? Oh, cool. Really?
Bad.
All right, sweet. I guess we launched this show at the right time.
Yeah, we thought we were just touching on like something old and dear to our hearts that was going to be for a very select few people.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is. We
Yeah.
enjoy you 6 people listening. But it's nice to see that there's Beast Wars is alive and strong.
Mm-hmm.
But to wrap to get through this, because we got some points to hit on here. We segued a lot.
Yeah, we still got a lot of episode left. So
Yeah. So to get back to it, the next scene is Rat Trap. And he's about to try to wake up Rhinox. And
Right.
The computer's voice says, Unit Rhinox's core consciousness is extended beyond measurable limits. So if you disturb him, it may result in permanent loss of spark. So he's astral traveling so far that like, hey, you have to let him do his own thing. Because if you stop the machine that he's connected, because his like hands are using joysticks and he's in some sort of contraption covering his torso, he might just die.
Yeah. And then Dinobot comes in on
This is
the
hilarious.
on the on the like elevator platform thingy,
And
and
he's
he's
nonchalantly. Go ahead.
holding one of the golden discs, and like
How do you do, fellow kids?
yeah, he like awkwardly puts it behind his back, and Rat Trap is all like, "Chopper face, you're back." I mean, where have you been, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah, he disguises that he's happy to see him. He's like, "What have you been doing? Saving the world or something?"
yeah. And
Dinobot's
Dinobot,
like, "Yeah, something like that."
yeah, possibly, yes. And he breaks down like a thing. Brings down a thing
Reminds
from the
me-
ceiling that has like a bunch of guns and shit on
Yeah,
it.
it's like a weapon rack that's like comes down from the ceiling. It kind of reminds me of the weapon rack from Fifth Element.
Yeah. And I'm like, we've never seen this before.
No, and there's just a bunch of guns on it, like shotguns, sniper rifles, everything.
I can think of like a half dozen episodes where this would have been really useful.
Right? Do you remember that one episode where they pulled something out of the wall in the bridge area, this area here, and there were like 4 shields,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
and we were like, what?
Since
where
when
were
is that a
these?
thing?
And then we haven't seen it since.
Right. This
I'm
this
sure we'll see this weapon rack coming from the ceiling many more times.
well, I'm sure, yes.
Yes.
Anytime the Axelon is in trouble, like the Maximals will just be like, yes, we have this weapon rack with like this unending arsenal at our disposal. Like that's yeah.
Did I see RoboCop's gun? Hold up.
I don't
No,
think
never
so?
mind. No. I just got hopeful. No, they're just a bunch of rad looking sci-fi transformer guns.
It
with
looks
Maximal symbols
vaguely
on them.
reminiscent of RoboCop's gun, so we'll go with that.
Little, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I listeners, I fucking love RoboCop.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah,
So, I'll go with that.
sure.
It is legit like in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So we'll go with that. It's a RoboCop gun.
Presumably, Dinobot is hiding the disc in his gun rack, or because he buried one disc when he had. We didn't have the time, people, because we went on this huge existential dread segue. But my favorite scene is when he starts reciting Dinobot starts reciting Shakespeare. He starts talking about, is it possible to change fate? Is it possible to, or is it locked? But if it's not locked, do these discs just depict one possible future? And if that future can be changed with the information on them, does that make the wielder of them all powerful and fate bending? Like it's a really great scene, and we didn't get into it. But he buried one of the discs, and presumably he's hiding the other one on this gun rack. Because when the gun rack slides back up, this is a really cool scene. When the gun rack slides back up, Dinobot is like packing. He's got like ammo belts across his chest. He has a gun bigger than him. He's got guns hanging off of him, and he like tosses a gun to Rat Trap.
Yeah, and he's all like, basically like, lock and load, motherfucker.
Exactly. And leading up to this, Rat Trap's talking to him from behind this wall of guns, and he's like, hey, if there's any disturbance going on, or if Sentinel goes offline, so the ship takes damage, presumably, Rhinox doesn't wake up, so we're in trouble. And so he tosses Rat Trap a gat, and he's like, then we have to take the fight to the enemy. Buckle up, Buttercup. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
And yeah, they drop down the elevator platform, and Rat Trap transforms into beast mode and goes into roadie mode. And
Wheelie mode.
yeah, he's all like, maximum rubber boing. And,
Rubber Boyne. Wicked cool.
zips away.
And while he's racing down the kind of canyon area, he sees Megatron pursuing Cheetor and jumps, transforms midair, and like takes a few shots and hits Megatron and damages him enough to knock him on the ground. And then Megatron says, Predacons, converge on my position. Shit is going down.
Cheers.
And then we get a more disgusting, terrifying short scene with Tarantulas, where he starts walking towards... I don't like it. Leave her alone, you creepy fucker. Starts walking towards... Yeah. He starts...
I don't like how predatory Tarantulas is toward Black Arachnia. Like,
yeah, he starts walking towards her and he's going, blah, 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 widow. And she's like, so you're a big, bad transmetal now, huh? And she's kind of like backing away from him. And he's way bigger than her now.
I do admire her confidence in this scene.
Yes, because she pulls the gun and she says, well, still hose your head with high-powered ammo if you take another step. So I'm like, yeah, fucking shoot him. Fuck this guy. And then, as if things couldn't get fucking worse for her, Tarantulas goes, I think not. And he's still in control of her.
Yeah.
So the TLDR is he left a psychic link between her and him so he can control her to some extent. And he points her gun at his head. He makes her point her gun at her head.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, ugh.
Gross.
And then, yeah, it is gross. I don't like it. Like, I didn't think anything of it as a kid, but like watching the show as an adult, like I don't, like I said, like I don't like how predatory.
Our hatred for Tarantulas grows with every episode.
Yeah, I don't like how he treats her.
And I mean, I think he's the most villainous being on the show by far.
100%.
Like Megatron is like, oh yes, time for an old Western showdown, my favorite. But then meanwhile, this guy's like cackling as he's like making Black Arachnia like almost like shoot herself in the head, and he's like, your body's under my control.
Yeah, I get fucking rapey vibes from Tarantulas. Like,
oh, that's not a mistake. Like he's despicably gross.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he made her to be his like weird science companion.
Right.
I mean, like that was the whole point of her, right? Like some loyal like spider lady. He made his it's like Build-A-Bear, build a waifu.
Yeah, basically, he made a like hot spider. He tried to make a hot spider girlfriend, but surprise, she's like, "No, fuck you. You're a creepy bastard."
And he's like, "Or am I?" And she's like, "Yeah, you are."
Yeah, you are. But then
He's
a few
like,
episodes later, it's like, "Oh, actually, he has a thing I need, so I'm gonna try and hold in my vomit while I pretend to flirt with him."
When she was trying to get to the bottom of his plan.
Yeah.
And luckily, before creepy stuff happens, the screen behind Black Arachnia lights up with Megatron's face.
Yeah.
And she falls on the ground.
Yeah, and Megatron is all like, "Oh, excellent. You're back online, I see. Yes.
And you're a shiny transmetal as well. Get your ass to Mars. I mean, at my location."
And
Speaking
Waspinator
of
comes
Arnold.
out. Waspinator comes out of the hot tub Healy tank.
Yeah,
And
just
is all
behind
like,
him. I thought this was his lab, by the way.
and
the-
is all like,
Isn't it?
Waspinator here too.
So presumably he clawed his way across the ship into this Healy tank,
Yeah,
dropped himself in, and he's just coming out of it now.
yeah. And
He's about to drop a huge bomb, which I think is very important to tell Megatron. He goes over to the window and he's like, "Lizardbot invade base, but Waspinator." And Megatron's like, "Silence! No time for your idiotic rambling. Converge on my coordinates, both of you. It's time to finish the Maximals and end the Beast Wars once and for all."
and it's like, dude, like I know Waspinator is kind of rotundo, but like he actually had useful info to share.
Pretty useful info. Dinobot stealing the discs? That might have
Yeah.
changed their entire plan. They might have sent someone off to go find them while they had them vastly outnumbered in this next scene.
Yeah.
And some Western music starts playing.
Yeah,
And
speaking of this next scene, so we're off in the
Megatron
wilderness.
has a timepiece? Instead of pulling out like a pocket watch, it's like a Transformer version of a pocket watch with what am I? You know what I'm talking about? The scene where he like pulls out a Transformer pocket watch with like
Yeah.
a 3D like holographic like rendering of the sun, Earth,
Right.
and
Yeah, it
Venus
looks like,
and Mercury
it
or
looks like
Mars.
kind of a weird like technological version of a sundial.
I see. Haha. It's supposed to be a pocket watch, like, you know, the trope of like people like checking their pocket watch in a Western before high noon.
Oh yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And boy oh boy, are the Predacons showing up in numbers here.
Yep.
So for anyone following along, it's just fucking Cheetor is using a rock, like a flint, to like sharpen his tail whip. Oh yeah, I'm noticing they're using like depth of field.
And I'm like, I'm watching that and I'm like, dude, you've been a Transmetal for like a week now. Like, really? Have you, like, that shit isn't dull yet, okay? You don't need, like, do you really need to be sharpening that?
Maybe he was practicing against rocks.
Oh.
I'm sure he'll get to use his tail a lot soon. And
I'm
not
sure.
just that one time on Waspinator. It seems like a useless weapon. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, Western music plays. We get close-up shots of them. Dinobot pumps his... he pumps it like a shotgun, but it looks like a sniper rifle.
Right.
It's Transformers. You can pump a rifle in this.
Yep.
It cuts to Rhinox in the ship. His hands are trembling as he's like holding onto his like joystick. But this time we see purple vortex of energy coming out of his chest into the sky.
Yep.
Huh. And
And
hooray,
we,
hooray! More Predacons show up.
Bow, 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 bow,
I like how
bow,
advanced
bow.
his his sundial is, but I'm like, you guys have holographic like displays. I'm just old fashioned. What can I say?
He appreciates the older technology, you know.
Yeah. And it's time
yeah.
to rumble.
Mexican standoff here.
Oh, but yeah, literally. Well, I mean, not literally. I mean literally in the trope sense.
Yeah.
not they are in Mexico and having a standoff. There's a lot of tropes in this episode. It even
Yep.
ends with a Western trope. They all like kind of quick draw at each other, both sides. How nice of the Predacons to stand in a line. And it's slow motion turns to like sepia, like almost like black and white, as
Yep.
the Maximals like take a step towards the screen and pull out their guns. Dinobot has this like giant like fucking like gat. I
Yep.
really like that. I know it's corny. The screen burns away like paper being burned,
Mm-hmm.
and the swipe screen says to be continued.
Candace, actually, for the listeners, Candace Santora from the Stasis Log podcast, who was a special guest on our show a couple weeks ago. She, on her Instagram, actually did a really awesome drawing of that shot, specifically.
Oh, right. Now I
Yeah.
know what that's from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, huh, that looks cool. And now I know what she did. Rad.
Yeah. And end of part 1.
Well, I mean, the Mexican standoff, as cool as it is, going through it in detail over a podcast, verbally it's going to be easy. It's like they shoot at each other. It looks really cool. We can't verbally really go over it any more than the episode. So, you know, they hide, they exchange shots. It's slow motion. Well, not really slow motion, more really choppy, low frame rate moments in this episode.
Yeah, that look terrible.
You've noticed there's like what, 2 or 3 in the episode? They're
Yeah.
so bad. Speaking of which, the episode starts with one. The Maximals lose the gunfight and go flying through the air as explosions explode behind them. And
and we drop down to like 15 frames per second.
but
10 or 15 frames per second.
they're trying to show us that it's slow motion, but it's not slow motion. It's just the frames slowed down, so it looks really choppy and bad.
Yeah, especially like watching it now. Like I didn't think much of it as a kid back in 1997,
It looks
but
bad.
but like watching it now, I'm like, oh,
especially since the rest of the show is so smooth.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
oh, they just turned it down to like 10 frames per second. And I'm like, this looks really awkward.
It's awkward.
So yeah, that happens, and like,
yeah, Cheetor's like, I'll just fly off to distract them. And Dinobot's like, oh, a flanking maneuver. Genius. And Rat Trap's like, one teensy little problem. And he throws a rock up in the air. And since there's like, I don't know how many, 6, 7 goddamn Predacons,
yeah,
it gets shot to hell. And it's basically shot so many times that a little pebble falls. And the most Looney Tunes shit ever on the show happens. They all gather around the rock.
Really? Ever? Really? You saw the low road, damn it.
There were some Looney Tunes moments in that.
That was
an entire
Looney Tunes episode.
Their eyes literally shoot out of their head in this part.
Yeah.
They go, and they look at each other. Anyways, people listening that are younger than us, that aren't familiar with what sound we're doing, are like, are these guys fully functional?
Right.
To which we answer,
the answer is no.
No. So Silverbolt says some Silverbolt bullshit. He's like, we outnumber them more 2-1. Megatron, surely we should ask them to surrender. And he's like, shut up, Nancy. And he smacks him around.
I like this exchange. Silverbolt is all like, wait, we outnumber them 2-1. And Megatron is like, yes. We have twice their firepower. Yes.
Well, we should give them a chance to surrender.
No. And Megatron like fucking dick slaps Silverbolt away.
with his large, thick, prehensile arm.
Yeah. Uh, his fucking like transmetal T-Rex like tail laser thing, like when it flops around like that, like it just looks like a fucking dick to me.
Well, I don't think it looks like a wiener, but I don't like the way it looks.
Listeners, it looks like a dick to Christopher Siege. I'm stating this right now, definitively. When his like fucking T-Rex tail thingy like coils around, it just looks like a dick.
Basically, what he's trying to say is his dick is prehensile and ends with a claspy point.
Yep. That's what my dick looks like.
So,
yes.
ladies,
And gentlemen.
and gentlemen, and other robots out there, aliens,
Come get some. Sure.
clones of himself. Jeez, where were
Oh
we?
god. That's a whole nother topic right there.
Is it really having sex with someone else if it's your clone? Isn't that advanced masturbation?
Yeah, I've always said like if I had clones of myself, like we would just be fucking like all the time.
I haven't thought about it to that extent. More than
honestly,
one, like multiplicity shit.
Honestly, like it didn't even take much thought for me to come to that conclusion. I'm just like, oh yeah, like me and like 5 like duplicates of myself. Yeah, just like a big ol' orgy.
So you've watched the film Multiplicity, I see.
No, actually, I haven't.
What?
I know it's one of those movies that I keep meaning to watch because I'm like, I really should, because I feel like I really should see it.
It's one of those movies where, like Junior and Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, they're classics, but like they're not going to change your life. So they sit on your to watch list for like decades. So I know how you feel.
I've
You know what I
never
mean?
seen. I've never
Go
seen
ahead.
Junior. I've seen Sleepless in Seattle many times.
Twins.
I've seen
Twins.
I've seen Twins. Yeah.
Ah.
I've seen You've Got Mail. While You Were Sleeping is another good rom-com from that era.
What are other like kind of? Oh, geez, just all those jazz. Those aren't. They aren't like. I was gonna add when Harry Met Sally.
From the 80s, but it's definitely part of that pantheon.
But I kind of put it a step above those other ones. Not because it's necessarily better. Like I said, it's not going to change your life or anything. But I feel like it didn't do anything new either. Maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I just like that movie more.
When Harry Met Sally? No, I feel like that was the
one of the stepping stones of that genre.
It was the prototypical rom-com that a lot of rom-coms in the 90s tried to emulate.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is that like all of these movies are classics, but like not life-changing. Whereas like I had a friend, they're like, "Oh, I finally watched like Mrs. Doubtfire," and I'm like, "And?" And they're like, they were like, "It's good.
It's fine.
It's fine." Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like nostalgia plays a huge factor. So I don't blame you for not watching Multiplicity or any of those, because if you go back and watch those for the first time, they're okay. Like family friendly like movies are are kind of like that, right? Like they're fine. They're good. They're not going to change your life.
I have introduced many a partner over the years to Transformers the movie, which, listeners, we did a commentary track for that is available on this podcast feed. Too much commentary. But yeah, so I've introduced many partners in the past to that film,
And they've all loved it.
None of them have liked it.
Oh. Hey, you liked the Transformers animated movie from the 80s, right? Yeah. Yeah, my partner loved it. She was like, "What
Sweet.
the fuck? This is great."
She's a keeper.
She is. She is a keeper. Like she was like, "Holy shit. This is great." What why can't all Transformers be this good?
Right?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say I introduced all those X's to Transformers the movie. Relationship, they didn't like it. Relationship didn't work out. So maybe
just saying.
maybe one is linked to the other.
I'm not saying correlation equals causation, but one of your second date questions should be like, "Oh, I'm kind of interested in this person," right? Should be like, "How do you feel about the Transformers movie from the 80s?"
Yeah. And they're
And
like
they're like, "What?" That's
they're
fine.
like, wait, the movie with like Shia LaBeouf and I'm like, no. Not that one, damn it.
But
the real Transformers movie.
The real test before you get too involved needs to be see if they like it. And if they don't, avoid heartache, my friend, and move on. That needs to be your biggest red flag.
Yeah. They
need to like it. Not think it's okay, especially not hate it. But if they go, "Hey, that was pretty good," you hold on to them, damn it.
Yeah. For the listeners, all jokes aside, I might actually take Cal's advice to heart here.
I'm serious, by the way. Like, what is there to not like about it? Do you know one thing that my partner and I were surprised by? To us, we were like, wait, that movie's only, what was it, like 118 minutes? I'll Google it after this. Like it's
not even,
right? Like 98 minutes. It's not very, very long. It's not like a 2-hour plus thing, but it feels 3 hours long. Not in a bad way.
Right. Yeah. Like there's so much there is so much plot in that film. And
there are heavy moments where people die. There are like joyful moments where Transformers are dancing. it's like there's great music. It's man, how do you not like that? And anyways, I
don't know. Legitimately, I don't know how anyone could not love that movie. But
it reminds me of so very brief like segue. Me in university, right? Being all like, "Oh, okay, a whole bunch of like chicks from my female roommate's course are coming over, and we're all gonna watch this movie, right?
Right.
And we're all gonna just sit down, even though I had 2 couches. Some of us had to sit on the floor, and the movie was Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Oh, I saw a live production of that. Actually, I've never seen the movie, but
they were the kind of people that were like watching it in like dead silence and like this was their favorite movie. And I'm just like held hostage while I'm watching this uncomfortable movie. And it's not like it was bad or anything, but just like I can never rewatch that because of the very weird and sudden realization that like a bunch of like lesbians trying to convert my roommate were angry that I was watching this movie with them. And I kind of discovered that like throughout the movie and like after. And I had like made jokes and be like, oh, ha ha ha, like blah blah blah, didn't get the vibe that they liked me for like some reason or whatever. And my roommate was like, oh, I kind of don't talk to them anymore. And I was like, huh? And she kind of like realized they were like trying to recruit her in their like big poly lesbian family.
Oh.
And they were upset with her.
That is
like,
not where I expected this story to go.
Right? And they were upset with her for inviting me to watch it without asking for their consent. And she would just like kind of, this is her fallout from them, right? Because she's retelling the story to me, and she just kind of like narrows her eyes and she's like, he's my roommate. We're platonic. And you said we're getting a bunch of people to watch the movie together.
Right.
Why are you upset
yeah.
that I invited somebody? And would you have been upset if it was a woman? And they were like, well, no. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, it was nice meeting you fine folks. Goodbye. And I was like, oh, thanks. Thanks, buddy. Like I went to high school with this chick. And I was like, it's not, and she's like, it's not that I stood up for you. It's that's really fucking weird. And weird that they would get upset. Just all of it. There's a lot to unravel there. Anyways, boom. Wanted to drop that story on you. Don't know why it popped up into my head. Didn't realize I was getting in the way of like a lesbian cult recruiting my roommate.
Yeah, that's
weird, right?
Strange.
Yeah. I'm kind of very curious to know more about that cult, but that's all I ever heard from them. Explains a lot why they were very short with me, and like making conversation was weird.
Listeners, if you are part of a like lesbian death cult, write in. Too much energy.
I'm not saying that they were bad people. I'm just saying it's hard for me to watch that movie because I'll always feel like 7 people are like giving me death glares.
Right.
Like I'm not, hey, if you're in a cult and it doesn't hurt people, you do you. If you're a lesbian and you don't hate men's existence, I love you. I'm your friend. If you're in a lesbian cult too, you do your thing, right? You do your thing. And like I said, you cannot like people. They didn't like people don't have to like me. But I can't watch it again because I'll feel like I'm being watched from the bushes, from the shadows. It was so weird. You know how there's a human instinct, like a scientifically proven instinct, when you know you're being watched?
Mm-hmm.
That's what watching that movie was like feeling like wolves were in the bushes, like watching me.
I think that is probably a like leftover thing in our subconscious, like leftover from when we were lesser animals, basically.
Oh, even like lesser animals than Homo sapien.
Yeah, when we weren't the dominant species on Earth.
Oh, interesting. So some sort of ape that needed to avoid predators.
Yeah, so like we can sense when like, I don't know, like a saber-toothed tiger or something like that is like fucking staring at us in the bush.
Yeah,
just like waiting for their chance to like pounce and eat us.
Definitely. 100%. Some sort of magic sixth sense that lets us know that predators are watching you from the bushes.
Yeah.
Or a cult of women wants you to die.
Lesbian death cults.
Yeah.
Again, listeners, if you're part of a lesbian death cult, write us in. Write to us and tell us about it.
Yeah. I promise I won't interrupt your movie nights. You just have to tell me. If I was just told, hey, Cal, we kind of want this to be like a ladies' night, boom, I would have been like, oh, say no more, fam. All I heard was like fellow students were like coming over to watch a movie, and do you want to watch it? I was like, oh,
Right.
cool, I've never heard of that, sure. And then like everybody like looking at me like I've got like leprosy when they like showed up, and I'm like, hi, I'm Cal, and like no one shaking my hand and nobody introducing themselves, and I'm like,
Wow.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for being alive. And then one pet puts a hand on my shoulder, and they're like, that's all we wanted to hear.
Wow.
Anyway, I don't know. Anyways, that story time with Cal. I was 19. Yeah, 19.
Well, never seen the movie, but like I said, I've seen a live stage performance of that particular show.
That could probably cure me of that weird like phobia of that movie. If I went to like a live action like stage play with like friends I knew that didn't hate me, I could heal from that.
Yeah, the live stage production that I saw was pretty good. I'm not. I've been on record many times as stating that I'm not really a fan of musicals, but
I love musicals, so I would like to find a way to give that another chance. Speaking of giving someone a chance, Megatron wants everybody to kill the Maximals. There's no easy transition back to the episode there. How does one follow up Hedwig and the Angry Inch?
with shooting at the Maximals. Cheers.
Oh, they seem to be behind rocks. Well, we'll keep shooting. So on the Axelon, we got some purple energy. Coming.
And, yeah, there is like some purple energy like going from Rhinox's body into the cosmos, and
through
there's
some cables.
There's some cables like connected to his like Vision Quest table.
Yeah,
thing
Vision
that
Quest table.
It's
cool. All the particle effects are rad.
Oh yeah, it's cool. But yeah, so there's some cables like going from his Vision Quest table to a stasis pod. Presumably the stasis pod that Rhinox mentioned last episode was a blank.
Mm-hmm. And we get an outside shot of the very beat up and shitty looking Axelon. And we can visually see two intertwining, very bright purple plasma ropes shooting out of the bridge of the Axelon into the sky and into space. So this is actually something that others can visually see. And we get to see the Matrix. I think? Yes?
Space.
It's a Vision Quest. He's
the final frontier.
And we cut back to the shootout.
They're shooting, and Tarantulas is like talking
Hurry
to
up,
Black
witch.
Arachnia.
I guess you can go long distance, the psychic link.
Yeah,
but basically he's like, hurry.
Sorry. Like, presumably they're, because it's a psychic link, there's presumably no like it's not bound by distance at all, I would think.
I don't know. I don't know the rules of psychic links. I didn't even know that was a thing till now.
Fair enough.
Um, but he's telling Black Arachnia, who's still at the base, the dark side, hurry up, witch. This cannot keep Megatron occupied forever. What's
Yeah, and
taking so long?
Yeah, and she's like tearing through
This
shit.
is dumb. She's tearing through shit, right? She literally has a pile of junk.
Right.
Like a rubber ducky, some guns, just like a mace, sex toys, the statuesque head of Ultra Magnus, like a pocket watch, a golden goblet, skis.
Right.
And she's like, well, it wouldn't take so long if I knew what I was looking for. And I'm like, Tarantulas, dude, why would you have not mentioned what? I think that's bad writing. She's like, if I knew what I was looking for, it wouldn't take so long. It's like, wouldn't the first thing you'd be telling her is the golden discs or a digital backup of them?
Right.
So yeah, he mind flays her and says, the golden discs, dumbass. And I'm like, why didn't you mention that first?
Yeah.
This is your fault, Tarantulas. And yeah, she turns and looks at the Dinobot shaped hole in the ventilation system. And she's like, Dinobot took them.
Yeah, and Tarantula says some shit and is all
He
like,
says some
bah!
shit.
And
Well, go look for the backup copy then, witch.
Megatron notices that Tarantulas is talking to himself, and
Right.
he's all like, And meanwhile, there's some more like depth of field shit going on from the animators. And Megatron is all like, to whom is that underhanded arachnid speaking?
Yeah, and he's like, I don't detect any radio transmissions open.
Yeah. And Silverbolt is all like, these Maximals are fools!
The
We
Megatron's
flanked their
like, that's
position."
the kind of language I like to hear.
We flank their position, but still they fight. And Megatron's all like, the Maximals are many things, but fools they are not. No.
Props to him for giving them that credit.
Yeah, when I initially watched this episode about a week ago now, like that was my immediate takeaway. Was I was like, oh hey, cool, like Megatron is acknowledging that the Maximals are not fucking dumbasses.
They are. There's a reason that the Beast Wars have gone on that long. He recognizes they are not to be underestimated. Like he's
Right.
I like that. Yeah.
And generally, like Megatron's tactics in this series up to now has basically just been like, we will essentially attack the Maximals when we can outgun them, essentially.
Yeah.
Because he knows that's like the best chance that they have.
Yeah, he actually looks up in the sky, sees the purple tendrils of Rhinox's Vision Quest, and he says, so that's what their plan was. To keep us from attacking their base. That's why they met them out on this rocky outcrop.
Right.
And he orders Waspinator and Silverbolt to take to the air and go attack the base.
Yeah. And they do.
And they do.
And Dinobot's all like, Megatron has deduced our strategy, such as it was.
I like his writing for these episodes. But we are joining Rhinox again with purple shit flying all off his whole body this time. It's super purpley. And a computer voice says, Unit Rhinox's core consciousness is fading. So he's so far out that if he doesn't like come back soon, he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And we join him flying through the Matrix, go like some interstellar shit going on here.
Yeah, this is some like Stargate shit right here.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to fade soon, but it's got to be here. As he's flying through the cosmos faster than the speed of light, and like 80s vector grid lines are like flying all over the screen. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like a Photoshop cutout of the Matrix just like chilling in the bottom right corner of the screen.
Is there?
Yeah.
And he says, it's got to be here on the other side of the Matrix.
Mhm.
The Matrix being this eternal web of connectivity that connects all living things. Rhinox has talked about it before. Or
Yeah.
sorry, at least all Transformers.
Yeah, for the listeners, if you're not familiar with what the Matrix is a thing from G1. I think the concept was actually first introduced in Transformers, the movie. I don't think it was.
It wasn't a G1 thing?
Well, yeah, I don't think it was a thing in the cartoon prior to that. But basically, the Matrix is this. It's essentially heaven for the Transformers, but it's also a physical thing that can be used as a plot device, essentially, to unleash power to help the good guys
Right.
when needed. But yes,
like another plane of existence.
Yeah, it's basically Transformers heaven, but that is weirdly also contained in this like spark chamber, essentially.
Yeah, so that's where sparks, their Transformer souls, go when they die. They get like recycled almost.
Yeah.
It's not really reincarnation. It's like, yeah, like you said, more of a heaven. That's where they end up. Or do they get reincarnated? I'm not sure, actually.
That I know of, no.
I know that like their souls, they're called sparks, right?
Yeah.
They like Starscream's spark is just eternally like it never entered the Matrix. It is eternally flying through space, like screaming out into the void until it
Right.
collides with a planet with Transformers, presumably so he can possess someone again.
Do Decepticon sparks enter the Matrix when they die, though?
Oh. I thought Rhinox said that all Transformers sparks do, but I
like to think
I
so,
never
because
thought about that. I like to think so too.
Particularly in the case of like Maximals and Predacons, like their version of Cybertron, like I like to think of them as essentially just being like
It's like
characters with different
nationalities.
politics. No, like
Yes.
not even like
Oh,
different
just politics.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
That's how I like to look at
Different
the Maximals and
factions.
Predacons.
Yeah. That's how
Basically,
I think of them.
Democrats versus Republicans. Basically,
And we won't say which is which. We'll let you be the judge of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying one side likes guns a whole lot. Anyways.
One side wants peace, and the other side wants things to be a lot spicier. We'll say.
Spicier.
Cheers.
Well, spice is the variety of robot life. Can Transformers eat food? Because we know the Beast, the Maximals can.
Yeah,
right?
we've seen them do that in beast form before.
We've seen the arachnids eating like rodents. Have we seen the robots outside of Beast Wars eat things? I know they've eaten Energon chips.
Right.
Maybe they can eat anything and it gives them energy. It's just more efficient to eat Energon chips. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Presumably they can eat
Right.
almost anything and gain energy from it, but Energon in
Yeah.
its purest form, in its form when it's stabilized is probably gives them the most energy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, thought random thoughts aside,
So Cheetor is flying through the air, going back to the base because Megatron has figured out what's going on. And
Waspinator says some Waspinator bullshit.
yeah, Waspinator is
I
all
am in
like,
charge.
"Oh, Waspinator is the one in charge. Waspinator will lead." And Silverbolt is all like, "Okay, well, go ahead, lead." And Waspinator is all like, "Oh, you not tell Waspinator what to do. Waspinator in command." And I'm like, this is a fucking dumb scene. Like,
Very Waspinator like, he's never in charge of anything. And he's
no,
like, wait a second,
no,
Waspinator have seniority.
no, not at all. But also, like, this scene like contributes nothing to the story.
Oh, no. Yeah, Silverbolt even like shakes his head. He's like, oh. And then Cheetor gets him.
Yeah, Cheetor like zooms in and like bashes Waspinator out of frame, and then Silverbolt like almost crashes into him, and then Cheetor
They're
zooms
face
away,
to face, yeah.
and Silverbolt is all like, "Oh, I'm a dog, and that's a cat." Wow.
Oh, yeah, because his ears go like up, and his eyes go like crazy, and his tongue sticks out. Like he has an instinct to chase a cat because he's a dog.
Yeah,
I'm
and then
glad
he
you caught that too.
yeah, and then he just shrugs and then like flies after him, and I'm like,
It's a little silly.
all right.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, okay.
Yep. And then
So,
we cut to
Lady
Dinobot.
Arachnia. Oh no, Dinobot?
Yeah, we cut to Dinobot riding
Oh my god, I almost forgot about that.
riding
Priceless.
riding on wheel mode rat trap. I will say I really like how textured Dinobot is in this
Thank
scene.
you. You noticed that too?
Yeah. He's very like
He looks great. Way better than the Transmetals.
his character model is extremely textured and like actually looks dirty.
Yes. Dirty, shot up, scuffed.
Yeah. Like
I
he
like
doesn't
it.
just look like smooth like chrome CGI.
Yeah, he's been through some shit. He's been covered in mud. He's
Yeah.
shot a bunch. He's been exploded. He's been diving behind rocks. He's riding on this little he's had dust kicked up at him from Rat Trap's wheels.
Yeah.
And now he's like on like what were those? Power wheels? Now he's like an adult trying to ride in a Power Wheels. He's like
Oh, God,
barely
yeah.
fitting. He's barely fitting on Rat Trap. He even doesn't even want to do it. He's like, ugh. He like shudders. To think I would ever do something so disgusting. But it's
Yeah, he
rad.
like
It's a cool
pulls
scene.
out his gun and is all
The
like, to
giant
think
gun.
I've become a rat patrol.
That's right. I like it. I like their
Yeah.
little rivalry.
It's
But
great.
I like that scene. And the gun, that gun that he has still, it's huge. I love how it's just a giant cannon.
Yeah.
Giant like rifle. Even though it has a scope, he's been hip firing that mother the whole time.
Fucking
like a shotgun.
fucking expert Call of Duty player right there.
Oh, that's why he popped up from behind the rock, jumped up in the air, did a 360, and then and then shot Megatron in the head. I was
Yeah.
wondering what that was. Yeah. So we cut to Lady Arachnia, and she's like hacking a half broken like console.
Oh, slightly before that, Megatron picks up on the fact that Rat Trap and Dinobot are fucking off, and he's all like, "They're running! Yes! Now's the time to advance!" And he goes to beast mode and like flies away.
Oh yeah, they all pursue.
Yeah.
So shit's getting real soon because there's a lot of Predacons coming.
Yeah, and
They're hot on their heels.
Lady Arachnia has found some shit.
She hacked into the Matrix, the digital Matrix,
the
not
other
the
Matrix.
spiritual Matrix. Yeah. There's a bunch of zeros and ones, and as she's like finding this information on the discs, whenever what's his name is trying to talk through her, presumably sense things through her eyes too. Tarantulas. Whenever he's trying to like psychic talk to her, she like twitches in pain, and his voice comes out of her mouth. Right.
Right.
It's not just in her head, and she shields her eyes so that he can't see that she's found the computer.
Yeah.
I just noticed.
And he's all like, basically like, "Oh, don't hide shit from me, bitch. Tell me what you found." And then, someone shoots a rock.
Rat Trap driving around with. I love this scene. God damn it! It's so good with the giant rifle. And fucking Dinobot's so badass. Does he have a joystick? No, it's a mount on the cannon. He fires this giant gat like positioned in between his legs on top of Rat Trap, and Rat Trap's tiny. Like I don't know how this is possible. And he shoots. This is such a Beast Wars thing now. He shoots, but not at Yeah, you know. This is such a Beast Wars thing. He shoots at a rocky pillar nearby and dislodges a giant rock, and it rolls and squishes Tarantulas.
A giant fucking boulder that was being held up by like basically one little pebble that Dinobot shot away.
He dislodged it and it crushes Tarantulas.
Yeah, and I'm like, God damn it.
That is such a Beast Wars trope.
At this point,
take someone out with rolling rocks.
100%.
Yeah. I think they've taken more people out with rolling rocks than they've shot. No, not really. But it's funny to think of.
So, so Tarantulas is squashed, and Black Arachnia picks up on this because
she can't talk to him.
Yeah, she can't talk to him. Like, she's not hearing him in her thoughts anymore. So she's all like, now I will hack the internet.
Time to hack. And she's like, computer, download and triple encrypt. Stat. And so some energy shoots some shit right into her eyes.
Yeah,
like
and her eyes turn into binary.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix code, a bunch of zeros and ones, like rapidly like shooting behind her eyes. It's cool.
Yep.
And we're back to the Dinobot riding Rat Trap. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, and Megatron and Inferno crash into one another and then land on the ground, and their heads swapped. And
I forgot about that.
It's so fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid. They swap
heads.
Yeah, and Inferno is just laughing, and Megatron's all like, "Brr, Bart."
And I guess what head controls what body you're on? Because it's so weird, man, seeing Megatron's head on Inferno's body. He goes, "Argh!" and he punches Inferno's head on Megatron's body, but it doesn't knock his head off.
No.
I'm like, so are they just like that now? Because that's awkward. Nope. No, they must have switched heads off screen.
Yeah.
And Tarantulas wakes up and he's like, Black Arachnia, what did you discover? Answer me, you cunt, you stupid whore, stupid bitch, tell me.
And
And she's like, oh no, it was all booby trapped. The data tracks are unrecoverable, I'm afraid.
yeah,
As she like
completely
coyly hides her
destroyed.
gun behind her back and does a cute little innocent pose.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sly. He throws his hands, Tarantulas throws his hands up in the air and he's like, ah, curses. I'm like, good, she needed a win. Fuck this guy.
Not gonna lie, like, I'd probably fall for her shit. Just saying.
You'd fall for her, like, feminine wiles?
Yeah.
That's
Like,
okay.
like if Black Arachnia was like doing her like feminine wiles, like nonsense, as she was trying to like pull the wool over me, basically, like I think I'd probably fall for it. Because I'd
On
be all like,
purpose?
"Dem titties."
I've been cooped up in the dark side with nothing but Predacon dick for decades. I can't say no to golden spider titties. No.
But I'd
You
also
know
be
what-
like, spiders are repulsive and nightmare
Fuel?
fueling creatures. So I'm like,
I'm developing a complex.
yeah, basically. I'm like, I have the weirdest boner right now.
I don't know whether I should scream and stomp or put my dick in it. Or
You
why
are-
not both?
You are a disgusting creature that should have been obliterated by nature. Yes, but also, dem titties. Ah, ho 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 ho.
What's that? You want me to do something for you? So,
I will be afraid, but I will also kind of like it. Yes.
if you want to step on my face while I'm on the ground, I'll pretend I don't like it. Anyways,
so Cheetor's flying around and he's getting chased by Silverbolt, and then
he
they
deactivates Sentinel's shields.
right, and Sentinel like starts firing at Silverbolt, and they transform, and then Cheetor
Silverbolt's
like
shot out of the air.
yeah, they transform. They're on the ground. Cheetor has his weird like tail whip thingy,
But it's
to-
also rigid and can be an axe. I don't. Yeah.
right?
And the team badass but awkward shows up. Rat Trap on with Dinobot.
Yeah. So Rat Trap and Dinobot show up, and Dinobot's all like, "Well, let's kill this motherfucker."
Yeah, because Silverbolt's like, well, make it quick, get it over with already.
Yeah.
And Dinobot pumps his shotgun. He's like, okay. Actually, I think he's holding his drill rapier. And both Cheetor and Rat Trapper like stop him as he's swinging it down, and he's like, "No, it's not what Big Bot would have wanted."
Yeah. And Silverbolt is
sentiment.
is basically like, "Wait, what? You're gonna?"
Yeah,
let
he's
me
watching
live?"
them and he's confused. Like
Yeah.
he's like an hour old, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he doesn't know what's going on.
Well, and all
And-
he's seen up to this point is just like the Predacon way of
Predacon
doing
bullshit.
things. Yeah.
Tyranny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rat Trap smacks Dinobot's chest, and he's like, "Yeah, pick him up and bring him to the CR chamber." And Silverbolt's eyes are just like going. His head is like looking left and right as he's watching them, confusingly.
Right.
Yeah. And so they're there, and some giant purple big E energy shoots back down from the purple connection to the Matrix and slams into Rhinox's body.
Yep, and Rhinox is back.
Dinobot drops Silverbolt's chunky body in the CR chamber.
Yep. I also like how Rat Trap's face here in this shot is also quite textured. Like, it doesn't just look like, like smooth
you're right.
chrome. Like it.
Yeah, it's not just reflective. There's some metallic grooves and not matte, but like less reflective parts to it. Good for them.
Bumpy is the word that I would use.
Yeah.
And
That's why
his skin looks bumpy.
Yes, and there's little cracks and indentations and textures on like his little the sides of his samurai helmet thing.
Yeah.
That he's got going for him. That's kind of why I don't like Megatron's beast mode. It's very perfectly shiny and like clean and smooth.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Rhinox and Rat Trap exchange some few words, and he's like, "Well, where the hell did you go? You didn't tell us anything." And he's like, "I went where all are one."
I appreciate the callback there to Transformers the movie. Till all are one.
Oh yeah, good point. Till all are one. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
And Rat Trap is
exploring the
like,
Matrix.
"Till all are what? What are you talking about? You big." And then they're interrupted by shots.
The computer is basically like, Predacons are storming the base, essentially. And Rat Trap is like, oh great, we're all gonna die. And Rhinox is like, it happens. But miracles happen too. As he like grabs his like one of his like Gatling guns and like cocks it.
Yeah, he's like, "Let's go kick some pred butt or go down swinging."
Yep.
And this, kudos to the writers. There's some silly bullshit in this episode, but like this final like fight this is some shit. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
The slow motion parts where it goes to 10 frames per second, it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Some more purple energy slams down from the spirals that go into the space and travels down the cords.
Yeah.
As all the other Maximals are outside getting ready to meet their maker if they must.
Yeah, the purple energy like surges into the ship and through the thing that
the cords.
Yeah, through the thing that Rhinox
yeah.
was lying in, and then through the cable cords and into the stasis pod containing a blank.
And the door slams open dramatically, but we don't see who's inside.
Yeah.
And we cut to the fight where it's like, what is it now? Like 4 Maximals?
Yeah.
Versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Predacons?
Yeah.
Another 10 frames per second scene as whoever's in the stasis pod slowly I hate the slow motion. it's so hard to look at.
It's fucking terrible. Yeah.
And we see a shadow of someone coming. And he opens the CR chamber where Silverbolt is. And in a mighty 5 frames per second.
And his mouth goes agape. And I'm like, really? Like, why is he shocked? Because
why would he be shocked? He didn't.
Listeners, we know it's fucking Optimus. Like,
and you
Optimus
know it's
is
Optimus.
Back. Yeah. Optimus is back.
Think about it, but it's fucking Optimus.
Yeah. Optimus is back.
Silverbolt never met him.
Like, exactly.
So why would he be surprised to see him?
Yeah.
Wouldn't he just be like, "Hi, my name's Silverbolt. Who are you?"
Exactly.
So he's like,
Oh.
in like great shock. Also, Silverbolt's been in the CR chamber for 10 seconds. What is he doing fully functional? Right?
Right.
Whatever.
So the Predacons keep firing, and they finally destroy Sentinel's shield.
And they
And
break like it's made of glass rather than it being energy. It's very
Yeah.
weird. Cool looking. But
so the Maximals keep firing on and keep shooting, and then they all one by one kind of run out of bullets.
yeah, Cheetor does some weird shit. He's like, Rhinox is like, well, it's us and them now. Cheetor's like, that's what I like to hear. And he puts his hands together, which I guess were his beast mode's one half of the beast mode's head. So his
Yeah.
hands and the jaw, like the mouth, makes his hands when he's in robot form. But when he slams
Yes.
his arms together, it's the cheetah head together. And when he opens his hand, it shoots out green bolts of energy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I like that. That's cool. Why'd Rhinox just run out? Like, he hasn't fired his guns in these 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they running out of bullets at all? Has this ever been a thing on the show?
No, I don't think so. Not really.
I don't think so. Remember that scene where Rhinox was firing his gats for like 2 minutes to the point where there was a pile of empty shells like at his feet?
Right. That was only a few episodes ago, too.
Yeah. And now they're all out of weapons? What about their energy weapons? Fire your goddamn eye lasers, Dinobot.
Right?
Anyways, they get shot to hell and they all duck behind these tiny shitty rocks, which somehow block all the shots. Dinobot roars in defiance and he's shot in the dick, literally. And in a very Looney Tunes moment, the rock that they're hiding behind gets completely shot. They're fine. It's just the rock gets shot apart. And they look up and they're like, uh-oh. And they gasp and look at each other and then look at the camera.
Yeah.
And then they're shot to fuck.
Yeah.
They're shot to hell. And there's a very cool Western shot.
We get a very Western influence
silhouette of the Predacons with the sun at their back.
Right. I think I might actually make that the show art for the episode.
That's pretty cool. The Predacons with the sunrise in the background. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is it the Predacons? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody's in the background actually.
And
Rhinox's whole chest is blown out, and he's like, "Here comes the dawn."
And Dinobot is like, "End our doom."
And his arm falls off, literally. Yep. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, here's the shot with the Predacons with they're just look all black and their silhouettes are against the sunrise.
Right.
Fucking mwah. Like, oh, I love that shot. If there was a high definition like version of this, I'm just watching on Tubi. I'd make that my wallpaper. I do it anyway. That's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna make that the show art for the episode.
That's cool.
And so yeah, the Predacons come up to the Maximals, who are like bruised, broken, and bleeding.
And they've come to execute them basically up
close.
And as they're getting ready to
die.
Yeah, basically getting ready to die, Dinobot to the others says, "At least we go," and he puts his hand to his chest.
With honor.
With honor.
And I'm like,
you did,
yeah,
man.
I feel that. Like the Maximals could quite literally die here, and this could be the end of the show.
but you fucking
But I would be
you did
like,
your best, boys.
yeah, you guys went out with a bang. Like, you tried your best.
That's how I want Scorponok and Pterosaur to go out. Fucking like defiant to the very end, fighting for what they believe in
Yeah.
with some fucking dignity. Anyways, moving on. I'm always going to be bitter about that, listeners. Anyways, there's an explosion, but it's not at the Maximals.
Yep. And they all gasp.
Literally, every single person, the camera zooms in and it shows their surprised eyes and their wide open mouths.
And we see at the maximal base, we see a new Transformer being all like, well, that's just Prime.
And it zooms in and he's in his robot form. And it's Transmetal Optimus with Michael Jackson's nose. And I fucking hate it.
So do I. I like Transmetal Optimus other than the fucking head. Like,
yeah,
yeah. Even
Art
like
downers, there's this big ass moment in the show, and we're like, look at his fucking stupid nose.
Yeah, so Optimus is like firing at the Predacons, and like Cheetor is like, hey, go Big Bot.
Oh, I just realized that Optimus shot through the hull of the Axelon to shoot at the Predacons.
Really?
Yeah. If you back it up, as the camera's zooming in and the smoke clears, he shot through the side of the Axelon. He's in the bridge. He shot out the wall. Yeah. He shot through his own ship. Oh, it's not the bridge. It's like a hallway or something. Bruh, what are you doing? Huh. He literally shot to make a surprise entrance, I guess. Yeah, I don't like his pupilless, like, his pupilless eyes and his, like, weird nose.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways.
I don't either.
Something folds out from his back. Oh, sorry. All the Predacons, he goes, oh, fire on Optimus Primal! And all the Predacons shoot at Optimus. Who has one of those shields we saw from season 1, where Optimus used a shield like one time.
Right.
And this rig, he says, my turn. And this rig comes out from over his back and folds out in front of him, like some sort of like cannon with stabilizers and a little virtual crosshair. And he just starts shooting this like auto cannon at them, which has so far been the most powerful like gun any of them has had outside of like a ship's defenses.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Yeah.
He doesn't hit shit with it, but the Predacons run away at least. And all the Maximals are like, yeah, Big Bot, fuck yeah. And then he transforms into beast mode and he's got a snowboard?
We're getting that like rockin' Beast Wars music that
and Optimus, he goes into his beast mode. So he has flight in his beast mode too, and it's a snowboard with rockets on it. He can airboard, ladies and gentlemen. You remember airboarding?
How fucking 90s can you possibly be?
Right. Do you remember airboarding was the thing? People would like skydive with snowboards and like, yeah. Right. Anybody listening that has no idea what airboarding is, it's people jumping out of a plane and skydiving, but they're doing sweet tricks with a snowboard. Yeah, it was a thing during the 90s. Anyways,
very pointless thing, but yes,
yeah,
it was a thing.
And that's the thing, because Optimus is on a snowboard or an airboard, and it has jets in the back. So he's now surfing at them. He's not letting these Predacons get away. But Megatron, he's like,
he's
flight. Go ahead.
He's a fucking hoverboard gorilla now.
He's a hoverboard gorilla because looking like animals anymore.
Because this is 1997. God fucking damn it.
That looking like animals was so 1996. This is 1997. God damn it. And we're going to be shiny. Yes.
Chrome gorillas on flying hoverboards. Shit.
This isn't Planet Energon anymore. No. This is Earth, where we board skydive and we're shiny. And we have wheels.
Oh,
and,
God.
Megatron says, flight is no longer your advantage, Optimus. Beast mode. And he takes to the skies, too.
Yep.
They're showing off the new toys.
Yeah.
Literally.
And so they both fly around, and then
Woo,
Optimus,
yeah, look at them fly.
and then Optimus lands, goes back into robot form, and all the Predacons like shoot at him, but he
From behind
like,
rocks.
From behind rocks. Yep. The old Beast Wars maneuver.
Yeah, he seems to have gotten himself surrounded. But luckily, Inferno is the first one to shoot his 2 Inferno rockets. Sometimes Inferno shoots plasma blasts. Sometimes he shoots rockets. I don't know. But Optimus literally matrixes these rockets, and they turn for some reason, making me think they're heat-seeking.
Right.
Because they explode and take out Tarantulas and Quick Strike. Luckily.
Yeah.
And then there's literally like what's this trope? Like the quick draw like standoff between Optimus and Inferno.
Yeah, the gunslinger standoff.
Yeah, where they both like hover their hands over and like a hawk screeches in the distance.
Draw, partner.
Draw, partner. Oh shit, what game was that? Don't tell me. I played the fuck out of like a Western game on the Sega Genesis. Lethal Enforcers 2?
Holy shit, dude. I fucking love Lethal Enforcers.
Am I right? Yeah, I'm right.
The first one was set in like the first one was
A
contemporary.
city.
Yeah.
And the second one was Lethal Enforcers 2. Gunfighters.
Get back or I'll blow them away. You ain't gonna catch me, Sheriff.
My cousins and I played the fuck out of that. Not with like guns, but like painfully like using the D-pad to like move the cursor over the screen.
No, I remember playing the second one on Sega Channel with a controller. The first one I actually played on Sega CD with and I had the full like light gun kit and everything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Rise, my braves. There's like a Native American necromancer that like brings back to life like a bunch of like Native Americans with like bows and arrows and tomahawks and shit. Like you fight like a fucking necromancer in that game. It's crazy.
Mm. Yeah, I played the first one more than the second one, but yes, I definitely played Lethal Enforcers too.
Who is the dad bod cop from Mortal Kombat 3? Stryker?
Oh, I have no idea.
You know how Mortal Kombat 3, or actually I guess Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, kind of used like live action like cells for like the characters?
Oh, they definitely did. Yeah. It was they used mocapped like live action actors
And then
for all of the fighters.
yeah,
And that was at a time when like no one was doing that in video games.
Yeah, there was a character called Stryker. I think it was Mortal Kombat 3 was when he was introduced. But like, do you remember when it was like blah 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 versus blah 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 on the versus screen? It would show like the live action like actors that played them,
right?
Rather than like the cell shaded like characters. And it was just like a dude. He's just a dude with a gun. Stryker with like a backwards hat and like a dad bod. And anyways, in Lethal Enforcers 1, there's like an enemy that like will pop up every now and then that looks a lot like Stryker. I know this is a crazy tangent, but I just thought that was funny. I'll actually link you to some Stryker images for your for fanfic. For your
Stryker erotic
enjoyment.
fanfic.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if that didn't exist, at least somewhere on the internet.
Right? Oh god. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, we're almost done here. So so Optimus and Inferno have a like Western style like draw.
Yeah.
Like gunfight duel, and obviously Optimus wins, and then Megatron tries to backshot Optimus because he's all like, well, fuck that guy. Cheers. And then Silverbolt is all like, no, fuck you, and transforms and like body checks Megatron out of frame. Right off a cliff.
Right off a fucking cliff.
Yeah. And Silverbolt is basically to Optimus like, yeah, I'm actually a Maximal, so
he's like, so is it okay if I join you?
Yeah.
And, this is actually really comical. So they both are staring as Megatron is screaming and his angry scream, ah, falling off the edge. And then it cuts to them and he's like, so yeah, I knew in my heart that I was always a Maximal, so can I join you? And then they both stop, turn, and look over the edge again. And then the camera turns back, and even farther down, it's still showing Megatron falling. And he's like, ah. And then they continue the conversation, and Optimus is like, well, I like your resume. That is great writing. I love that. Aw, Silverbolt. Such a good boy.
A good doggo.
He is.
So we're back. After that, we're back at the Axelon, and Optimus is all like, so the alien blast did this, huh? How do the new bodies handle Energon buildup? And Rhinox is all like, oh, well, that shit ain't a problem anymore because all the Energon locally was either detonated or converted into stable Energon cubes.
Oh. All of it was either destroyed or transformed into stable Energon cubes. Oh.
Yep.
And that's been very difficult for them to do because they don't have the facilities. I think the Predacons have done it to some extent, but not in any large form. So this changes things.
Yeah, so that like little bit of dialogue is probably from a plot perspective, probably the most important bit in either of these episodes. Honestly,
it's interesting you say that. If I had just watched Beast Wars, I would have been like, I don't know what the fuck that means. But going back and watching a bit of G1, watching the Transformers animated movie from the 80s, watching War for Cybertron on Netflix, I'm like, oh, this is a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
It's not just all raw, unstable like Energon crystals.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. So I'm glad I caught that. Yeah. And that you're saying, yeah, that's probably important.
It also completely negates the need for them to transform into animals anymore.
Oh.
So
Oh. This changes things. You don't like that.
No, no, I don't, because it kind of kneecaps the whole fucking point of
Having a beast mode?
yeah.
Also, as you and I discussed with Candace and with each other,
Right.
at the season 1 roundup that we did, it's a really believable and interesting plot mechanic to have them only have limited time in their robot forms. Means battles can't be that long. Sometimes it puts
Yeah.
them in precarious situations where they have to transform back even though they don't want to. It's good.
Yeah.
That's a good premise. And that's gone now.
Yep.
So
yeah. So
I gotta tell you, Christopher, things are kind of the plot seems to be amping up, but
you don't like
I have
where
some
it's
issues
going?
with
Yeah.
have some issues.
It's ramping up, but I don't like where it's ramping up. What it's ramping up toward.
No, transmetals aren't visually appealing. There are Fuzors. They don't need to transform into their beast mode anymore. They killed off my boy Scorponok and my boy Pterosaur. There's a lot of bad, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's on that list is Optimus's face. On that list is Megatron's
Yeah.
arm. On that list is purple shiny toy
Just-
dinosaur
Just
Megatron.
Quick Strike in general.
Quick Strike's existence is on that list. Silverbolt is a plus. Quick Strike existing.
Sure.
I mean, you're not wrong. Man, they kill off Scorponok and Pterosaur and they give me Quick Strike, but with the rubbing salt in the wound.
Fuck Hasbro. Like, fuck Hasbro.
If they had the creative freedom to do what they would have wanted, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
Pterosaur and Scorponok were killed off because of a Hasbro mandate. So, fuck
Yeah.
Hasbro.
Anyways, let's.
We're
this
pretty much
shit
at the
up.
end of this episode. So, like, Optimus is all like, "Oh yeah, I've got a lot of things to do and new people to meet." But like, have Rat Trap clear all of his junk out of my quarters.
Most importantly, I have to get, and he raises his voice and leans into Rat Trap. I have to get Rat Trap to clear out all of his junk out of my quarters.
Right, and Rat Trap
Cheetor
is
puts
all
his
like,
hands on his tips, and he's like, Rat Trap. I like that. Even Dinobot. He calls him an opportunistic vermin. At least that's funny.
And Rat Trap is all like, yeah, you know, the guy was dead, you know?
Cut me some slack, hey.
And I'm like, I mean, fair. But still.
He did ask if he could have his room. Do you remember? Before
and
the
he
suicide
said no.
mission? And he's like, absolutely not. Out of the question. And so we are joined by a very weird looking beast mode Tarantulas back on the dark side, hanging out and investigating again for the third time the grate with Dinobot's silhouette taking a chunk out of. I love that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed if you didn't point that out to
me. So Megatron is all like, so Dinobot took the discs and destroyed my backup, but we are blessed with your complete recovery. Cheers. to Black Arachnia.
Right. She's like, I exist only to serve you, Megatron. Megatron,
Cheers.
kind of knowing that there's tomfoolery, has this big fake fucking smile on his face, and he's like, yes, and my backup data tracks? And he gestures, you're sure that nothing could be recovered from them?
And Tarantula, like transmetal Tarantulas, like drops down from the ceiling from a like energy web.
Silk? Yeah.
Yeah, and is all like, yes, nothing at all.
And Black Arachnia turns and she's like, well, as you can see, and she clips some like cords, severing like the control panel from like the wall.
Yep.
Completely destroyed.
Yeah, and she like
why'd she do that?
yeah, and she like sways her hip to the side and like perks her chest out and puts one of her claws on her hip. And like, not gonna lie, like watching this, I'm like, oof.
You go, girl.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
I'm like yeah.
I don't remember much, but I'm looking forward to Boss Bitch Black Arachnia.
Yeah.
I hope that's coming.
I may have been robot horny in that exact moment.
Megatron angrily turns around and punches Tarantulas out of the air.
Yes.
And this is weird. He has like a villain monologue on his rollerblades. And I'm like, you can't have a villain monologue on your rollerblades and be taken seriously, bro. So he flips his like little blades out.
We've entered a new phase of the Beast Wars then. Cheers.
Whee! He transforms into his beast mode. This is cool. And he's like, future developments should prove very interesting. And he like waves his claws goodbye as he like slides backwards into the darkness down one of the hallways.
Yep. And Black Arachnia, looking fine as fuck, is all
she's like, interesting indeed. And the camera zooms in on her eyes, and she's got green zeros and ones just rolling. And then there's static.
Yep. Showing us
we
that
did
she
it.
clearly still like was successful in stealing data from Megatron's computer.
Yeah, she's got the backups of the discs.
Yeah,
like is stored in her head.
Yeah.
So, done.
So
that's it, baby.
Yeah, that was Coming of the Fuzors, parts 1 and 2, episodes 2 and 3 of season 2 of Beast Wars. Here on Too Much Energon, we rate shows on the Too Much Energon scale, which ranges from not enough Energon, which is anything from the worst thing ever to, not great, to sufficient Energon, which ranges from basically like,
it's okay.
It was okay to like, pretty good, to too much Energon, which is anything from, it was pretty good to literally the best episode ever. So Cal,
it's a 3-point scale.
3-point scale. Indeed. So Cal, what would you rate Coming of the Fuzors, parts 1 and 2 on the Too Much Energon scale?
Well, it is not too much Energon. I can tell you that. There were hype moments, right?
Right.
But it's also not. Oh, geez. Is it not enough Energon? I think it's a sufficient amount of Energon. A low sufficient amount of Energon for me. Or is it? Is it not enough Energon? It's a sufficient amount of Energon for me, dog.
Right. These are getting not enough Energon from me. I kind
You
of
know what?
liked.
No, I've been bitching so much. These get enough Energon from me, man.
Yeah, both episodes. Like I kind of liked the Western callbacks, but at the same time, like the homages to classic Western films, but at the same time, like there was no real reason for it.
Quick Strike was introduced, but like he was never the focal point of the action.
Right, and yeah, and I don't like Quick Strike.
No. It gets enough Energon from me. I'm allowed to change my verdict, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not enough Energon, definitely.
Yeah, this
both of them, both episodes.
Yeah, honestly, they both episodes just kind of feel like nothing really happens.
No, and Candace has said this when she was on the show, and you and I have said this. There are great moments. War-torn, scuffed up, dirty, 2 ammo belt Dinobot with a giant fucking like rifle riding Rat Trap. That's great. That's fuck yeah. I love that. Them
for sure,
facing their deaths, like just like and being okay with that, or at least Dinobot being like, hey, at least we go with honor, right? Like, yes, very good moment. Optimus blasting a hole in the side of the ship, and after scaring Silverbolt for some reason, and
for some reason,
and like sky surfing to get surround. That wasn't as triumphant as I had hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's ugly looking.
These episodes sucked.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted them to be better, and like I remember them being better, but watching them now, I'm just like, no.
Sometimes when you're an adult, right? You're like, oh god, here comes Energon farts. But then you're like, oh, that was hilarious. That was a great episode. But also as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait for like this. I was so hyped as a kid. But then you're like, So things change when you're an adult, and we rag on a lot of stuff, but we also love a lot of episodes too.
Yeah.
This was not one.
No.
And on that note, we got to get out.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Running out of time.
So, that was season 2 of Beast Wars, Coming of the Fuzors, part 1 and 2. We got some listener engagement. Use amazing shit. I love Beast Wars, and hearing you guys run through the episodes with a fresh take is ultra gear. Solid impressions as well. Yes.
Nice. Wow, he must be talking about you.
So that tells me he's at least listened to an episode.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks, brother Kyle. Keep on listening. The episodes only get better with time. We will be back next week with the 4th episode of season 2, Tangled Web. Gotta be honest, I barely remember this episode.
Some are vaguely familiar from here on out for me, but I don't know if I watched it or if I did. It left my brain.
Right, and like I know that's more the norm with you,
but it's weird for you.
but yeah, for me, like it's generally like up to this point anyway. Like generally, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this episode coming up. Like I watched it like 500 times
Even if it's not your
as a
favorite,
child.
you
Like,
remember it.
yeah, over and over again. But like this episode coming up, like I know I've seen it, but I don't really remember much about it. So this will be interesting to revisit.
Hooray! I'm sure it's great. Not a filler episode at all.
I'm sure. Best way to support the show is if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating because it helps us out with it, discoverability. Also, check out our website, www.toomuchenergon.ca. The whole www thing is very important because the URL does not work otherwise, and I am too stupid when it comes to website shit to figure out how to actually fix that. If you want to write in, much like Brother Kyle did, send us an email at toomuchenergon@outlook.com. Like I said, we will be back next week with the 4th episode of season 2, Tangled Web. So keep an eye out for that next Friday-ish.
Ish, yeah. But
Yeah,
if you've what is this going to be, like another 3.5 hour episode?
About
But
that, yeah.
if you've stuck with us and listened all the way to this point, thanks for listening.
Yes, we appreciate all of you listeners. So if you stick with us as we ramble on for 3.5 hours about a 22-minute episode of a 25-year-old cartoon, write in because we legitimately appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, we do. We want to know that somebody out there is listening and that we're not just screaming out into the Matrix.
Into the Matrix.
But speaking of the Matrix, it's time for us to fly off into the void.
Yep. I've been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
I am your other host, NeoCal.
And until next week, Beast Mode.
Beast Mode, which is optional from this point onwards.
I'm a rat. Wheels.
My new name is Wheelie Rat.